Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. But as we have been doing since yesterday, we will start off with a little bit of the news. Um, what happened here? Oh, we're gonna do that again.
I think you're just frozen. Oh,
All right. Well, I think you can see me now. Back. Let's do this again. Let's start off proper. Welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We're gonna do a little bit of the news off the top. Of course, my name is Dan, and I'm here to give you the latest from the world of DC. As well as, of course, a little bit of Marvel. We're gonna talk about some other stuff from the movie world, including Sonic the Hedgehog. We gotta get into some stuff that Matt Reeves said about the Batman. And I'm sure there's lots more beyond that. We've got a packed show for you today. Sorry about the little glitch there at the beginning. But now that we are past it, let me welcome it on in. John, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for asking.
sorry. I had to do a dramatic opening. I gotta switch it up. I'm doing great. I'm getting great.
Dude, I thought your
That's-
camera was off. I'm like, why is there a black screen? What is going on here? What is going on here?
Not quite the. It looked better backstage, but that's okay. Um, we're here. We're here. We're
Yeah.
here.
I don't
So
know what
let's get
happened.
into
We
it.
started the show and then my camera was like, "Oh, f you, I'm gonna go take a vacation," or my internet
Pretty
connection,
much.
mortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
anyway,
how it is.
that's usually how it goes.
I
It's
remember
it's
the worst thing that happened to me, not on obviously not on this stream, but on my one of my personal streams. I on the Cool Kids channel, I legit lost power in the middle of the fucking stream, and I couldn't like
wow.
get. I had to get it back in on my phone to shut the stream
Well,
off.
you know what I
So
do? So for this reason, I have multiple hotspots and I have Starlink as well as Comcast to make sure that I've got redundancy because I've usually got multiple streams running at the same time. There's like something going on back there. There's of course this going on right now, so I
yeah,
gotta make sure there's
it's crazy. But
plenty of
oh
backup
my
plans.
god, on my old
But
computer, it was the worst. It was
yeah,
like when I started doing streams, like whether it be personally or like with people, like again, way before I did this, like it just my old computer, like it was I would
hmm
like my camera would never work. I would like my clips would never play properly. I would cut out like in the middle, something went wrong, blah blah blah. And there was another time on my old computer where like I just cut out and I could not get back in, even on my phone. But like I finally managed to get in there and close the stream down. But it was just, it was the worst. But now I got a new computer and my Wi-Fi just is kind of terrible every once in a while. But anyway. We've filibustered for too long. Now that
yeah,
we're getting
yeah,
it, we're getting the people in here. Now
yep.
we got the
Derpy's
awkward shit out of
already
the way.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Durfy's already in the chat, and of course, Man of Steel Magnolia is there. Hello to both of y'all. Durfy, we haven't gotten to the Matt Reeves topic yet, but we will. We will get there, and so I'll note down your comment, and we will definitely talk about it when we get to it. But as we've been doing recently, let's start off with the news. What's been going on in the world of Hollywood today, John? So
Yes.
to kick things off, I'm gonna bring in a story
Oh
that,
my.
quite frankly, made me crack up for a good hour after I read it.
I
So,
was like, I was too dumbfounded. Like I was like looking at this, like I was rereading. I'm like, is this from an Onion article?
I
Like,
know,
is this
right?
from the Onion? Is this from like Babylon B? Is this from like fucking just like hard disk news, whatever the fuck. This looks like a joke.
It's crazy. I mean, like, for if you guys are listening, like, let me kind of read out to you what's on the screen here. Basically, I came across this on my Threads feed, and I was like, huh. So Armie Hammer will star in Uwe Boll's new film, The Dark Knight. Oh, you know, not that The Dark Knight, but the film follows, get this, a vigilante who hunts down criminals. Okay, all right. So not that Dark Knight, cool. And then there's a quote in there which says, "Our movie is very different from Chris Nolan's movie, so there's no danger of confusion." And I was just like,
there's a danger of like copyright infringement, but you know,
I'm like,
just getting ready to fucking sue them into oblivion, like.
Dude, it's crazy because I'm like, I literally read this and then I was just like trying to contain my laughter because I was like, I have no idea how serious this is, if this is a prank. Is it April 1st already?
Fucks with people a lot, so I wouldn't shock me. But if it's real, I would love to see them like W being like, you can't use the Dark Knight. Like,
I'm like, John, like, you know what? To me, the thing about this that is the weirdest thing of all is, don't you worry, my friend Yue. Nobody is gonna confuse this movie with Christopher Nolan's movie, because nobody is gonna be running to see this movie.
Yeah, because you're considered one of the worst directors, if not the worst intentional director of all time. Like, say what you will about Tommy Wiseau, at least his like movies are like ironically funny. None of your movies are ironically funny. They're just bad, and you're considered one of, if not the worst director who has in cinema history, worse than Ed Wood. Like, at least Ed Wood has like a charm to him. Uwe Boll just makes bad movies, and he literally did it because of tax loopholes in Germany. That's literally the only reason why he fucking made movies. So like, it's just hilarious to me. But it would be so funny if like W became like, okay, guys, you can't use the Dark Knight. It's like, okay, well, we'll do this. Like, they'll spell like the dark. It'll be like DARUUE.
Yeah.
NIGHT, the Dark Knight. It's like a fucking, and then it'll be like an asylum movie or some shit. And it kind of sucks. It's like, oh, you know, Armie Hammer's finally playing the Dark Knight after so long.
Finally, oh god, yeah, fan cast.
It was intentional in Justice League Mortal, which could have been a great movie, but and I will say Armie Hammer, like, back then could have made a good Batman. It's just like he's also a piece of fucking shit, and, I mean, you know, a cannibal. So you know, but it's just like, I love how like Armie Hammer's like, okay, here's my comeback. I'm gonna fucking come back in an Uwe Boll film. It's like, dude, what are you fucking smoking? It's like, I'm gonna have I'm gonna have a return in a fucking like Tommy Wiseau movie. It's like, what? At least with like Brendan Fraser, he's like, okay, I'm gonna be in Doom Patrol, and then I'm gonna be in a fucking Martin Scorsese movie, and then I'm gonna be in a Christopher Nolan movie, and then so it's like Brendan Fraser at least like tried to like bob and weave, or like Darren Aronofsky that got him his Oscar. Like, he knew what director, like Armie Hammer's like Uwe Boll. It's like, and Manos, to answer your question, Uwe Boll is like famously made horrible video game adaptations. Blood Rain, Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead. He also made Seed. He made Rampage, and a couple sequels to that. He made Postal. He just, like, none of his movies are good, like, at all. Like, all of them are terrible, terrible movies. So, you know.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere, right? I mean, like, by the way, before I go any further, I wanted to welcome on in, obviously, Manos Time. We got Manolo in the chat now, and the Watcher is here. The Watcher's watching. I wonder who's watching the Watcher. Derpy's here, of course. Man of Steel Magnolia, as I pointed out earlier. But yeah, you know what? I looked at this and I was like, you know what? Maybe I've got a few taglines for them. You know, Armie Hammer as the vigilante who hunts down criminals. You know, he could hammer some bad guys. You know, maybe he can fight an army of criminals.
They'll even go down to the tagline: "Greetings from a place without etiquette." like that. It's just like trying to like using the tagline from Dark Knight. Just like trying to, it's like almost the same, right? Just really hammering in like fucking like similarities, and it's just like,
it's crazy. It's like what you said earlier. I'm like, Armie Hammer almost went like, fine, I'll do it myself. You're not gonna cast me as Batman. I'm just gonna make my own, and it's just crazy.
And not even
like,
get a good director, just get
Boll. Yeah, yep. And you know what? Once he's done hunting the criminals, he's just gonna eat them for scraps. That's how Armie. That's his finishing move. Armie Hammer's gonna hunt down some criminals as a Dark Knight, not the Batman, but a Dark Knight. No, Hunter, he should not return to the DCU. He was never in the DCU. He could just no. I would prefer that he stay away. We do not need that PR. The Watcher saying, "Well, I am a multiversal entity, so technically, the only one left to watch me is God." Well, fair enough. I guess that depends on.
Too late. Morbius already killed God, so.
Yeah. That's kind of part of canon now. So, YARC9 saying the DC lawyers better get on it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this movie will get sued. Because it's not that Dark Knight. Nobody's gonna confuse it with Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. There's no danger of that. But it is a movie that follows a vigilante who hunts down criminals, and it is called The Dark Knight. I'm like,
at least like okay, like you can make like it could be like iffy, like Dark Knight, like it's about like a knight from like medieval times, and he like loses his code of honor and becomes a Dark Knight. Like he becomes a darker. Like you could do that, but it's like no, we're just straight up doing a superhero, and it's also called the Dark Knight, and it's like really.
Yeah. As the Watcher's pointing out, there's probably some copyright issues here just right off the bat that they'll have to worry about. So, but hey, you know what? With that said, good luck to Armie Hammer. He can go hammer the criminals, fight an army of them, and then eat them for scraps. But until then, we will switch focus to a little bit of Marvel-related news. Of course, tomorrow Liz is on the show, so we will get more of that. But today, I wanted to just kind of take a look at this. They released this new shot from the movie, and it's like I think it's part of a larger commercial for Tide. And it's, of course, it's the Hulk, or Red Hulk rather, trying to, well, not trying, he's pretty much succeeding in taking out, it seems like, Captain America. It's nice how they did that, though. I mean, the commercial is a little cheesy, I get it, but I looked at this and I was like, oh, that's funny. Of course, you've got Red Hulk against Captain America, who's
actually really
doesn't
funny
even have superpowers.
The visual effects don't look better than a shitty commercial, so it works.
I mean, this is also a lower resolution version of it, so I'm sure it will look better when we see it in the movie theaters.
I'm sure that's the case.
I do wonder how
that's a month away, it'll look way better.
I mean, look, they've been putting out so many things for this movie. Clearly, they know
trying so hard to get fucking people to watch this garbage.
Well, I know because this is what I'm saying. The whole thing about this movie seems to be they know that the way to get people to come watch this and to basically make at least some of the money back that they spent on this movie is to bombard them with marketing, because it's not the kind of movie where you can put out one trailer and then wait another 4 months to put out the second one, like maybe what James Gunn is going to do with Superman. They need this movie to be front and center in people's minds all the time. Like, there were all kinds of antics with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan at the Golden Globes over the weekend, with taking jabs at each other and like we won, and Anthony Mackie comes out and backstage when Sebastian Stan won a Golden Globe for I forgot what he won it for, but it wasn't The Apprentice, it was another different movie, but it's clearly that there, and of course Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie presented an award where Harrison Ford actually looked legitimately pissed at Anthony Mackie for something. But I just find it interesting because, like, John, do you think this Captain America, Anthony Mackie's, Falcon turned Captain America, can Sam even take those kind of hits from a Hulk and get up and keep walking? That's
the key here, because it's I thought it was gonna be a plot point here that he got the super soldier serum, and I got that information wrong, as Liz loved to fucking keep reminding me and wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. So I thought he took the super soldier serum. I thought maybe he took it in like either Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or he is going to take it in this movie, because no fucking way can a normal human being take those fucking hits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even with like an armored suit and all that shit, your head is still bobbing around on your neck. Like, even if you could wear your seatbelt in your car and jerk forward and get a concussion.
Yeah.
Like that's what I remember. There, Pete Holmes, our favorite Batman. Hey, your neck, that's a little chilly. Anyway, but you know, he was talking about how he got a concussion where he was like, he wore his seatbelt in his car and he like jerked forward. He like stopped the, you know, the belt stopped him, and then his brain kept going and hit his own skull, and he got a concussion. So like it like there's no fucking way that like this dude, this Hulk, even if he is less super powered than
yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's the movie that Sebastian Stan won the Golden Globe for.
No, I know. Yeah. I don't know why you're saying that. I already knew that already.
No, I think I couldn't tell the difference. I was like, it's not The Apprentice, but yeah, and then you mentioned.
Yeah. Anyway. So no way that like a normal dude could like get up from like what it's like it's but it's also like Home Alone 2 logic, where Marv can get like 5 bricks to the head, like from a 2-story building and live. So it's like, I guess there is some suspension. It is a superhero movie.
Oh
there is some suspension of disbelief, but it's also like, I don't know.
Yeah,
but like,
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a superhero movie.
Brick,
Nobody's really thinking hard about this, but like, I think it'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, I love the Home Alone logic. That's a good comparison. Yeah. Eat brick, kid. What are you talking about, Marv? How many fingers am I holding up? It's great.
I don't care what anybody says.
So good.
That whole scene from Home Alone 2
it's so good.
Like,
dude, I'm always
is better than
to the point of
like easily.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm every time I see that scene, like I literally just watched the movie, like both the Home Alones again, for the Christmas holidays, and every time I'm just like dying laughing at the end of that scene.
Those scenes just make the movie. Like the rest of the movie's like fine.
It's great, but that's what you're there for. That's the main event. Like it's like
that's why I watched like Home Alone 2 like year round, is because those scenes are just so fun. Like how he fucking like, oh no, I can't get, my head's on fire, I can't get water from the sink, let me just do a full-on handstand into the toilet. Don't like just like dunk my head in, just no, handstand that bitch. Like,
because that's what Joe Pesci would do, of course, you know, because he is acrobatic like that. But anyway, you know, speaking of acrobatic, we know that Spider-Man is very acrobatic, John, and we know that Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is a show that you're quite excited about. They just put out some new promotional art for it, and
I'm the only person that's excited for it, apparently.
I mean, to me, I'm curious. I'm probably not gonna end up watching every episode because it's not necessarily. It's like animated Spider-Man. You know, it has to. Like, I personally like the '90s one. That's my touch point, but I'm not saying that's necessarily the best one objectively. But to me, I haven't really been able to catch on to any of the Spider-Man series since, and that's mostly because, you know, I think I grew out of the target audience for that. But it looks good. I mean, the artwork looks fantastic. Like, did you take a look at this? What did you think about this artwork?
I think it's pretty cool. Like, I like the vibe. I mean, I like the white suit. I forget the specific name for the suit, but I do like the black and white suit. But I like the look. I like the vibe. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot, but it's probably gonna suck. But
dude,
like,
you know what I remember? Cool. That, you know, was it like, this is years ago? I think I had that Spider-Man game for PC. And in that game, you could get the white suit, and like you could play as Spider-Man with the white suit. I'm just forgetting. I think it might have been like one of the first Spider-Man video games they put out back in the day. Somebody let us know in the live chat if you guys know what I'm talking about. I just remember that. I was like, it takes me all the way back to like, I don't know how old I must have been back then. But we got Carter Blake in the chat. He's saying too much childish people on here. What's wrong with having some fun? It's Home Alone, man. I enjoy Home Alone.
The fucking door is right there, Carter. All right. Fucking Carter Blake. You sound like a fucking trust fund baby. Get the fuck out of here, you loser. Anyway.
Yeah. John will take you down. But yeah.
Well, I work a 6-figure job. I'm very important. Why don't you fucking
Spec-
eat this dick, asshole? If I want to get excited about Home Alone, I will happily get excited about Home Alone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
eat a dick.
Yep.
There
John
you go.
118.
Perfect timing. Dan with the banners. Let's go.
Yep. Yep. Well, your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man comes out on Disney Plus soon. We know that.
Future
But
Foundation suit. Thank you, Watcher. That was the
yes.
suit. Because the thing is, I remember all these suits from Marvel Spider-Man, but I don't remember the specific
The names
you,
for them. Yeah,
Thank you very
exactly.
much.
Yep.
Thank you very
And
much.
Manos, yes, Home Alone is a classic for a reason. It's the first two movies. You can't beat them. I actually like the third one as well. I think it's the fourth one when the quality starts to really dip. But anyway,
I will say the third one does have a really funny breaking in scene. It's pretty funny.
It is. Well, I love the part where the guy
sucks,
gets electrocuted on the chair outside in the snow. That's in his hair. That's always that gets me. In the second movie, Marv goes over to the, or is it Marv?
And he becomes a skeleton.
They get the skeleton. Ah! It's so good. Yeah, I love it. It's so good. It's another one of those just absolutely just rolling on the floor laughing. But
I'm excited for Spider-Man Noir. That looks really good.
I mean, also anyway. I haven't gotten into Spectacular Spider-Man, but I know several people who have loved that show.
This will get people to watch.
I know, that's what I was gonna say.
They'll watch the trailer and then fuck off.
Just even if you don't want to watch the actual Spider-Man TV show, maybe you'll tune in to get a peek at the first trailer for Daredevil Born Again. That is a good. I think that's enough for you to kind of get I don't know, signed up for a $7, $8, whatever the base plan for Disney Plus costs these days.
$10.
And they keep raising the shit out of it. I'm like, it was
gonna become huge.
When it was $6.99, it was like they were always gonna raise that thing through the roof. We got Ron dropping in. Hello, Ron. Sup? What's up?
Ron Weasley. Anyway.
God, oh my God.
Remember Potter Puppet Pals? Good times.
Dude, I brought that up the other day with Fiona, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" She's not a big Potter.
What?
So, I know, right? What? I know. I had to show her the Potter Puppet Pals because I'm like, this is OG YouTube shit right here. But anyway.
Yeah, Neil Cicierega, he's still doing shit. He has a band, Lemon Demon. He does his own music. It's great.
But hey, guys, let us know if you are excited again for the Daredevil Born Again trailer. It's gonna be releasing before your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man I think from the sounds of this, they mean that it's gonna play before the first episode. So if you click onto it on Disney Plus, it may just also be that a day or two before the show releases on Disney Plus that the trailer will get put out. So It's coming. It's coming very soon, and I know a lot of us are excited about it. Carter is excited about Spider-Man Noir, which looks nice. The behind-the-scenes photos look nice. I wonder if the show is gonna be good. Hopefully it's more like the the Venom movie than it is like Madam Web or Morbius. But hey, you know what? It's got Nick Cage in it, and he's gonna Nick Cage it up. So I'm excited, and I would take it. Now, speaking of Nick Caging it up, I don't know why that's a good transition. It probably is not, but The Last of Us. It's coming back for the season 2, April of this year, John. Is this a show that you have been watching and following along? Did you play the video game The Last of Us?
No.
Are you excited to see America's Daddy back?
I'm excited to see him in Fantastic Four.
Got Jeffrey Wright in there, of course, Commissioner Gordon. You've got Hawk Girl in there, Isabella Merced.
And then we're going to get Neil Druckmann's fantasy, fucking Abby with Golf Simulator. That's going to be great. I feel so bad for unsuspecting Last of Us fans who don't know anything about the video games and just watch the show and then are just going to watch the biggest pile of dog shit get fucking adapted into the season 2 and possibly season 3, and it's just not gonna lie, I kind of feel bad, because my friend who played Last of Us Part 2, and he's like, it's one of the worst games I've ever played, and he was like, he's like, I'm like, you're gonna fucking punish yourself, aren't you? He's like, I'm gonna punish myself. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. He's like, yes, I know I'm a fucking idiot, but I gotta watch it. I'm like, why? You don't have to do anything. He's like, I'm gonna do it. You're a fucking idiot, dude. Come on, why are you doing this to yourself? He's like, I gotta do it. I'm like, you don't, but you don't, man. You don't. You don't have to sacrifice your sanity for this shit. They don't deserve it.
Well, I mean, look, the new season is coming out. We know now that it's going to come out in April. The trailer is out there. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I mean, look, it did win Game of the Year, like Ron said, and they are splitting the second game into like 2 or 3 seasons now.
It's
So
going to be like, I think they said it's going to be 2 seasons.
yeah, they're gonna
Because they
stretch
just
it
want,
out.
because
They-
Neil Druckmann,
yeah,
Neil Cuckman just wants to fucking just abuse his audience as much as he possibly can.
yeah.
Because he hates us.
Well, John, let's quickly kind of move on to the next story because I wanted to get your opinion on this because I know that you are a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And there were obviously rumors and even like some reporting that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 got greenlit before. Now, the third movie isn't doing as well as I think a lot of people wanted it to. Mufasa has kind of like raced past it now at the box office, but it's still, closing in on 400 million, so not too bad. And now we are hearing that Paramount Pictures is prepping Sonic the Hedgehog 4, and they're anticipating a 2027 release, a spring 2027. And yeah, I mean, what are your expectations for this? Are you excited about getting another Sonic the Hedgehog? And also, they're not wasting any time. This might come out before the Batman too.
They said it's going to come out in 2027, I believe. So I'm stoked for it. I think it's, whatever. I mean, they promised us some great stuff. I hope Robotnik doesn't come back. I hope that, like, at most he'll be a cameo. It's just like I feel like there's other characters and other villains that they can use that would be suitable for this. I mean, they're already doing Metal Sonic. They're going to bring in Amy. My friend who's a big Sonic fan has said that, like, I feel like they're going to, like, adapt parts of Sonic CD because that's when Amy and Metal Sonic were introduced. So I'm gonna go with that because he knows best. And it's also possible that since Sonic CD involves time travel, they might bring in Silver so they don't have to adapt like the shittiness of Sonic 06, where he was actually introduced. So because he's from the future, so I think that could be a lot of fun. So whatever they decide to do, I'm stoked for it. It just as long as everybody's coming back. I hope it's just the main three. Like, as much as I would love to see Keanu again, I hope like he kind of does his own thing because I know like they're like, I know Idris said he's like, oh, I want to do like a Shadow Knuckles spinoff, and I think that would be good. I wouldn't want him to have like a super prominent role because he doesn't really have a prominent role in the games as much. So I think it would be really cool if they have that. I think Amy is good enough for an ally. They could introduce Rouge the Bat, because I know that there was like I forget who. I think it was another friend of mine who said this. They're like, oh, Kristen Ritter's character is like a disguised Rouge the Bat. And I'm like, that's an interesting theory. I'm like, okay, they could probably go for that. But whatever they decide to do, I think it'll be great. I think it'll be awesome. The last 3 movies have been like this trilogy, even though it's not really a trilogy because they already greenlit a 4th movie, but like so far for the next 2 years, it's going to be a trilogy, and this trilogy just keeps getting better and better. It started out as kind of like an okay buddy comedy type of thing, and then they played it safe, and now they have like they adapted parts of the lore more and more. Like Sonic 3 was essentially like a very loose adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, which is considered one of, if not the best Sonic game of all time. So I think that's awesome. So whatever they decide to do, I think it'll be great, as long as they kind of double down on the aspects that made Sonic 3 work and get rid of the ones that didn't, mainly the bad and cringy comedy. But whatever, I'm still excited. I'm really excited for it.
I mean, all you guys in the chat are too. Like the Watcher is like saying Ritter as Rouge would be peak. I think that would be also, yeah, I agree with you there. The Watcher saying Sonic 3 is doing very well and would have done better, but Disney hogged all the premium screens. Yes, that is true. I mean, there's a lot of competition, and unfortunately, when Disney's in the conversation, a lot of times they end up getting to eat the bigger chunk of the pie. We've got Kevin in the chat as well. I just wanted to say hello to Kevin. For him, The Last of Us season 1 was just okay. And all he much like us just wants good storytelling from Marvel. Take risks, but make sure that you're telling a good story.
Yep.
A Shadow movie spin-off would make bank, says the Watcher. I mean, potentially. I mean,
Just
they
don't
did do that
adapt
spin-off
the
TV
Shadow the
series.
Hedgehog game because I heard that's
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah. But also, Manos Time with a nice comment there regarding the Sonic franchise. Hope that they don't do the Knuckles way and make a series based on a Sonic character, even though they focused on a less interesting character. I know that series that they did on Paramount Plus didn't do as well as they thought they would, but I don't think it was as good as the movies, so that's probably why. But the franchise overall, with 3 movies in, has now crossed $1 billion at the worldwide box office, Sean.
Whoop, whoop.
So Sonic is a $1 billion movie franchise. Now, it's not like one of those movie franchises where every movie's making $1 billion or even $500 million. Like the newest one is up to like 400 some odd million, or I think it's either just crossed it or is right at the threshold, which is not a bad number. I mean, it's kind of like, the John Wick franchise where the movies do really well considering the amount of money they're putting into them. They're profitable. They're not really like going out there and making $1 billion every time, but they're certainly making enough to justify, more of them being made. I know that some people have, some criticisms for the newest ones. There's been conversation about whether Jim Carrey will come back as Robotnik in the 4th movie, considering, how the story plays out in the 3rd film. But given that it just crossed $1 billion, I think it's almost a no-brainer that Paramount is going with the 4th
Like this
one, so,
should have been DOA with that ugly Sonic design, but now, the fucking autistic Sonic fans bullied them into fucking making a better design, delayed the movie properly, and we got something great out of it. So, I'm happy for that we got a good franchise out of this, and one of the few like consistent video game adaptations of all time. Like we're getting some good shit. Ironically, when like video game media is pretty much at its peak right now, unfortunately, Boll has to fucking come in and ruin things out of his fucking retirement. So, that's unfortunate. But let's hope he just works on his shitty original movies that rip off DC characters and just leave video games alone.
Yeah, just leave it to James Gunn. He's doing a good job. Plus, he's got the permission.
Snyder
from Warner
fans
Brothers.
enter the chat.
Yeah. But the Watcher saying that they love the diehard fans love the Shadow game, including of course the Watcher. The story is awesome, and that would be a key adaptation for a Shadow movie. And Sonic Heroes more of a the two combined would be good. Yeah. So I'm sure we're gonna get in. They already introduced the villain of the next movie.
So if you say it's good, then I'll trust you. I've just heard like a lot of people say it's bad. So I don't know. I've never played it. I can't actually judge it. But if you're saying it's good, I'm happy for you. And if you think that most people say it's good, then I'm happy for them. I don't know. I like know some of the lore, and that's kind of it. I played a little bit of Sonic and the Black Knight. I got 5 minutes in, and I'm like, this game sucks, and then I shut it off. So that's the extent of my Sonic knowledge. So
now, speaking of animation, John, anime is a genre that's continuing to boom, and Sony has a big presence in that space. Of course, Paramount's doing their thing with Sonic the Hedgehog, and they of course have Transformers 1 this past year, which didn't do very well at the box office, but hey, it was actually a pretty good movie. Now, Sony on the other hand is doubling down through their Crunchyroll streaming service on anime. So there's of course a lot of good anime on there already. It's not the kind of anime where they're adapting a Batman story into an anime or anything like that. It's really just iconic original anime based on manga, and sometimes just original anime altogether. Including now, of course, this is an announcement directly from Sony. This comes to us on their Threads account. They announced that the Ghost of Tsushima Legends is getting an anime adaptation and is going to bring epic battles and untold samurai stories to life in 2027. The same year as the next Sonic movie is going to come out, and it's going to premiere exclusively on Crunchyroll. John, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that excites you? Have you heard of the Ghost of Tsushima before? Are you looking forward to this when it comes out?
I got like a demo on my PS4 but I never played it. Now it's not available because I canceled my PlayStation Plus. But I know of Ghost of Tsushima. I know how fucking amazing it is. A lot of people are excited for the sequel. So I know I've heard it's just absolutely legendary, and it's ripe for a good adaptation. Yeah, like that. It's just like a well done and well made story, and I think it's ripe for a lot of good stuff as long as they like stay true to the source material, respect the source material, then it should be okay.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then it might be like the Yakuza TV show
Ooh.
on Prime.
But hey, look, this is Sony. Sony usually gets the stuff right. Crunchyroll is a streaming service that is practically heaven if you are an anime fan. And to add something like this in there, like the Watcher is saying, 2026, 2027 are going to be just amazing years if you're just a fan of genre entertainment, especially. Whether it's video games, anime, movies, TV series, it's going to be packed. I mean, even this year is packed. Manos Time saying they're also making a live action movie on the Ghost of Tsushima. That I would be interested in seeing just how good the visuals can be, because it's like adapting anime to live action is such a tricky thing. Most of the time, you don't get it right because you have to do it in a way that's artful, that's true to the source material, and yet it's not limiting or downplaying like the artwork and just the animation style. Like you have to sort of honor the anime and build
Yeah.
on it and do something original. It's you have to do so many different things to kind of balance out all of those things. It's hard to do. I appreciate the difficulty in it, and so I sometimes when you see an anime live action adaptation that isn't so good, I'm like, look, they tried, and not every time are they gonna get it right, but hopefully that live action movie looks just as good as the game, and now hopefully the anime looks fantastic too. I'm excited for that. I know you guys are excited for that. Of course, this brings our news of the day to a close. So if you have been watching, just drop your comments down below on all the
Don't
different
worry, we're not
stories.
ending the show, by the way. It's
We're
just
continuing
news
on with
segment,
DCU
so-
Daily, of course, but in the meantime, hit that like button if you haven't already, and hit subscribe and the notification bell so you know when we are live, because we are here 5 days a week. And with that said, John, as you mentioned, we're gonna switch gears, and now let's get into DC proper. So welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We're so glad to have you here, of course, and thanks for stopping by. Now let's talk about so many different pieces of news today from DC. You've got, of course, continuing to talk about everything that James Gunn mentions. He's got a few things that he said recently that we need to dive into. Something to do with Creature Commandos. He's been talking about more of, what's going to be going on in the upcoming DCU in regards to like which actor is going to play which role in the live action projects. Once Creature Commandos wraps up at season 1, and then of course we have to talk about Matt Reeves, telling Josh Horowitz at the Golden Globes red carpet that hey, it has to make sense, but I won't rule out the idea of the Batman potentially becoming a part of the DCU, but it has to make sense. What is that? What does he mean by that? Is he leaving the door open to Robert Pattinson joining the DCU? We'll get into that, of course, and then we have to talk about everything we know about Supergirl, the Woman of Tomorrow. That is a movie that is going into production literally in a few days' time. So less than a week away, and so we figured this would be a good time to kind of look at everything we are aware of as of now. We know a lot of the cast members. We know roughly what the budget's going to be. We know, of course, when they're filming, where they're filming, for how long they're filming. And we know the release date. We know the director. We know the director of photography. We know who's doing the costume design. Of course, that's important because we want to see like just how closely does Kara's suit match with that of Clark's suit in Superman. Chances are pretty closely. We can even speculate whether, because in the Woman of Tomorrow comic, you have Krypto the Superdog. Will Krypto be a part of this Woman of Tomorrow? Because we see him, of course, in the Superman movie. So where does that leave us with Krypto and Kara's relationship? So there's so much to get into. And of course, beyond that, I'm sure we'll have your comments if you're watching us live. So to do that and so much more, of course, as always, I've got with me John. Oh, where are you? Where did you go, John? You here?
Welcome again to DCU Daily. Hey.
Damn. So dramatic. I just keep thinking your camera's off. I'm like, your screen went dark again. What is going on, my dude?
Yeah,
Ron is like, oh my god, I'm scared. You scared, Ron. Apologize.
Sorry, Ron.
Yeah.
Ron Weasley. Anyway.
Okay, you're still on that. Okay, well, we got lots to get into, so let's start off with some just, the little tidbits of news that we get every day, and then we're going to get into our bigger stories with Batman and Supergirl later. So, this first one comes to us from James Gunn, the man himself, of course. He was recently, talking about Creature Commandos, and people were continuing to ask him, well, hey, give us more of these Easter eggs. And so he's been doing that weekly with Creature Commandos on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sure they recorded all of the episode Easter eggs before, and now they just put out a video every week that a new episode drops. But basically, one of the Easter eggs that he described was the nightmare sequence, what's basically Cersei's vision of this, dystopian future, if you will.
Yep.
And one of the heroes in there, we were speculating before that it was Blue Beetle. And so James Gunn just confirmed it that yes, indeed, Blue Beetle is in Cersei's vision. He's shown in that episode 4 sequence in Creature Commandos, and he more specifically, he said he's a character, Blue Beetle that is a character that we want to continue dealing with, and we are going to. So again, mentioning that there's going to be an emphasis on Blue Beetle as a character, and it's almost as if now that we're seeing all these, characters on spikes, each of those characters featured here seem to be there because James Gunn wants to make them a focus of the DCU moving forward in some way, shape, or form. So they're not there by accident. He's not just putting somebody there, only to kind of tease us and not get a project with them. So I, look at it and I'm obviously excited because I love Blue Beetle the movie. You see the artwork here on the screen. I think Jaime Reyes is probably going to be one of the best additions to the DCU. Joel Maridueña is probably, just like you said, John, before, he's born to play the role. He was just so charming in the movie in Blue Beetle, and I hope that they bring back George Lopez and the rest of his family. That's, of course, something that, we've missed for a while, so I'd love to see that back. But
You don't turn your back on family.
Damn, I almost got you, and then you fucking played the other one.
It's the wrong one because Shola clearly did not turn his back on his family.
Well, I played the first one.
I know you did. I just,
What's real is family.
The watchers in the chat Venom, apologize. I get your reference, watcher. I'm watching you. But yeah, Ron is saying I'm glad Blue Beetle is coming back. Mano's saying Blue
Brother
Beetle.
never told you never threaten a man's family.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the OCD. I had to play all of them.
It's you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. That's kind of what's going on here. It's.
Anyway.
Look,
speaking of, I think that's gonna be in Uwe Boll's Dark Knight, where it's gonna be like a Madam Web thing,
yeah.
where it's like you live long enough to see yourself become a bad guy,
or you die as a good
just
guy.
Truly die as the hero, and it's just like it's like the butcher.
When you take on great responsibility, great power will come. That's so stupid. Oh my god. Yeah, there's gonna be you either get got as a hero or you stick around long enough to become the villain. That's probably what they're gonna try to do. And it's just similar enough. Ron's like, that sounds legit, Yeah, that pretty much. But yeah, I mean, look, the Watcher's suggesting that James Gunn might give us a Young Justice team. I mean, look, I think it's too early to say that, obviously, but John, what are your thoughts on this? Are you looking forward to seeing a lot more Blue Beetle? We know that there is potentially a Blue Beetle, and I mean, not potentially. They announced a Blue Beetle animated show, right? So we are getting that.
It wasn't from James Gunn, so I don't know.
Okay, so it's not
totally official.
It was one of the. I think it wasn't from one of the cons, or was it from one of the? I forget if it was a rumor. I want to say it was from one of the big outlets. So it is
maybe from Variety or Deadline.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been so long, I don't remember specifically. Maybe somebody else could, talk about that. But I don't. Yeah, maybe it was from a scooper, maybe it was a official one, but whatever it is.
Yeah. No, Manos is saying, oh, we remember this, right? Remember when it was the old trust me, bro, and then Xolo himself said, yes, it is happening indeed. So yes, Manos saying that it was confirmed, and even Xolo Maridueña confirmed it himself. So, and then the Watcher saying, not Young Justice, my theory is that Gunn's gonna put Beetle on Damian Wayne's Teen Titans a la Young Justice. Oh, okay, so thanks for clarifying. I could see that. I could see it. I mean, we've kind of speculated what the team of that Teen Titans movie is potentially going to look like. Of course, it's not greenlit yet, but if they were to do it, yes, there was a rumor that they're gonna go with the original lineup from the TV show, but I'd imagine given all the other components in the larger DCU with Damian Wayne existing, Blue Beetle being around, it might be easier to just
So
go with a
it came from the
different
Hollywood
lineup.
Reporter, by the way.
Okay, so that's pretty
Miguel
legit.
Puga and Christian Martinez. Apparently they are heading it, but we hadn't heard. But again, it's not directly from James Gunn, but he said more often than not, the big Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, those usually get stuff right.
I mean, it's they have a really good hit rate. I feel like it's almost never these days when they report something that doesn't turn out to be true. But because they're doing proper journalism. They'll verify their sources. That would be nice. Kumail Nanjiani. I mean, hey, look, we know that Mike Flanagan, wasn't there just out of a pure coincidence last summer at the Paris Olympics. So maybe Kumail Nanjiani was also there because he's involved in some DC project we don't yet know about. And if it's Skeets, then let it be Skeets. I'm looking forward to, of course, seeing more Blue Beetle. I am really excited. I love that movie, and I want to see more of Sholo in the DCU. So, with that said, though, John, I know you want a lot more of Alan Tudyk. Or Alan Tudyk? Alan Tudyk? Is that how you pronounce it? I can never get it right. But nonetheless, he's, of course, so far been playing and voicing multiple characters, including Dr. Phosphorus, in the Creature Commandos TV series. It's animated, so, they were like, yeah, we can maybe just have him voice a few different characters, and people have been curious, right? Does that mean Alan Tudyk is going to be in the Clayface movie? Is he going to continue to play Dr. Phosphorus in a potential live action movie or TV show? So James Gunn wanted to clarify that, and he did, basically saying that he's only going to play one character in the DCU films, and this is what he said specifically. And I quote, "As has always been said, we plan for the actor to play the same role if he is a primary cast," says James Gunn. And he continued saying, "If he is a supporting character in Creature Commandos, it is because we did not search broadly and comprehensively to play the same in live action like we did for bigger characters like Cersei, Nina, and et cetera, et cetera." So basically what he's saying is...
confirming that he's going to play Dr. Phosphorus in live action, but not necessarily Will Magnus or Clayface. Now, Clayface I can buy because you could barely hear his voice. It was kind of just grunts and maybe like a line of dialogue. That I could buy. But Will Magnus is would be his face, Dr. Phosphorus doesn't have a face. It would just be his voice. So you could get away. It's like Sean Gunn playing Maxwell Lord, but also voicing G.I. Robot and Weasel. So I feel like you could get away with him voicing Dr. Phosphorus, but also playing Will Magnus.
Right.
So I understand Weasel. It's not totally fair because G.I. Robot is dead now, and they haven't confirmed if he's coming back or not. Weasel is again kind of and that's it. So yeah, they so I feel like you could get away with that, like him playing Will Magnus and Dr. Phosphorus, because one would just be him and the other would be, the other would be again just a voice, but you could just have him in mocap or anything like that. I don't know. I feel like you get away with both for this because Sean Gunn's getting away with both. Or is that just for family, James? Is it just for family?
I don't have friends. I got family.
I'm just saying,
you just missed that one particular one that we didn't get a chance to really do.
Just a little bit of a hypocrite, James. But I don't know. I feel like you could get away with that. Am I talking crazy here?
No,
Dr.
you're not.
Phosphorus is just a voice essentially, and then Will Magnus would be everything, would be physical and that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like you get away with both. But I imagine that Mike Flanagan or whoever's directing Clayface is going to get a real, a different actor, because it's essentially a whole different, type of thing. I hope we get a Metal Men movie, back in the 70s. It would take place in the 70s because that's when, G.I. Robot was kind of getting upgraded and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, look, Alan Tudyk is gonna stick around, and I'm just happy to see that he is sticking around for a while longer. So, yeah, hopefully that means that whether it's Doctor Phosphorus or a different character, but more likely Doctor Phosphorus, I'd love to see more of him in the DCU. He's one of the living treasures in Hollywood, and we'd love to get more of him in whatever capacity we can get. So, with that said, John, let's take a look at this story. Of course, it was just days ago that Colin Farrell won the award for Best Actor in a Limited Series at the Golden Globes for The Penguin. And now, as you get further into the award season, we know that The Penguin has been nominated for 3 DGA awards. That is, of course, the Directors Guild of America. They actually have an office in New York City. When I was in the city looking at like the holiday lights, like you can actually walk by it. It's one of their offices on the East Coast. And that's basically the guild, the union for directors in Hollywood. So they do their own awards, the DGA awards, and they have nominated The Penguin for outstanding directorial achievement in movies for television and limited series, which is kind of a little confusing. It says in movies for television and limited series, so basically limited series. And then the 3 different categories, of course, you've got. The 3 nominees, rather, you have Helen Shaver for Centani, Kevin Bray for Top Hat, Jennifer Gesinger for A Great or Little Thing. So, what do you think here? You've got 3 nominees here, 3 directors nominated from the Penguin, 3 episodes that, quite frankly, were all really, really important and iconic episodes of the show. Do you think this will have a chance at winning? Because, of course, it will be competing with other shows and movies. You got Shogun, of course, probably going to get nominated.
The
there's
Bear,
all the True Detective, Night Country,
Tulsa King, and Hacks, and all this other stuff.
Yep.
All these trillions of shows that I fucking don't know exist unless my parents are binging it. So that's how I get. I stay in it. It's like, hey, Ma, Dad, what show are you binging now? Oh, it's this weird show, and I'm like, okay, The Agency. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. So.
And it's a good show. I'm trying to watch more of that. Actually, that's a good show, The Agency.
But yeah, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, like, which episode, Centani is the 4th episode, which was the Sophia heavy episode, that like the episode that really turned the tide and showed.
Is that the one where she kills the rest of the Falcone clan?
Yes, I believe so. So that's that one. Top Hat is the one where we see Penguin kill his brothers, and then Greater Little Thing is famously the episode where Vic gets killed. So
what are you trying to do here? What are you trying to do here?
So I'm just saying, like, that's like a famous, that was the thing that happened. Like,
I know.
3 major episodes were 3, where like major people get killed: the family, his brothers, and then Vic getting killed by the Penguin in that episode. Greater Little Thing, Vic getting killed.
Yep. Fair enough. But hey, look, the 77th annual DGA Awards, you'll see a presence from the Penguin, and hopefully it will pick up an award or 2. I'd love to see that. Of course, I think this is again the early part of the award season. I'm sure there's more to come here, and it's already happy returns for the Penguin, and deservedly so. So with that in mind, let's move on to the OG, the core of the franchise that spawned the Penguin in the first place, and that is, of course, the Batman, John. So Matt Reeves has been finally giving us a little more insight into where his head is at regarding the Batman 2. And he's, quite frankly, left the door open for Robert Pattinson's Batman to potentially join the DCU, saying that, it needs to make sense, but, we'll see, basically. Yeah, that's kind of like, to summarize, he said, we'll see. Now, let's dive into it a little bit further. So, as you see here, the Screen Rant posted about it. The quote from Matt Reeves was, "It really comes down to whether or not it makes sense. I think what's been great is it was really a kind of story I wanted to tell. We are calling it the epic crime saga." I'm like, fuck. And all of that. Yes, all of that. The Becks, as it were, which is the thrust of what we want to do. And it's been important to be able to play that out. And James and Peter have been really, really great about that. And they're letting us do that. And what the future brings, I can't really tell you. I have no idea right now, except that my head is now down. or my head is down now about getting the Batman Part 2 shooting and to make it something really special, which of course is the most important thing. I don't know. We'll have to see where that goes. So
Yeah.
all of that to say, he's basically left the door open. He's like, I'm not really sure if it would make sense to do it. I kind of want to do my own thing, and I'm focusing on the Batman too. I mean, and he was asked a few follow-up questions, like the Watcher saying. He was even asked about the Catwoman series, and basically he kept on, like sticking with the notes that his PR team told him, which is like, yeah, that would be cool, but we're focusing on filming the Batman 2 right now.
Because he's like, I swear,
Guys, I swear Batman Part 2 is coming out. We swear to fucking God, Batman Part 2 is coming out. No, nothing about Cat. No Catwoman. No Cat. Batman Part 2. We swear, Batman Part 2 is going to be coming out October 2027, October 1st, 2027. It's going to come out. We swear. Guys, we fucking swear. We fucking swear Batman Part 2 is coming. I swear it's not going to be canceled. We swear it's not going to be the new DC Bat. It's going to come out. We swear, guys. It's going to fucking come out. It's going to come out. Shh. It's going to come out. Batman Part 2 is definitely 100% going to come out. I don't care what spin-off bullshit you're talking about. The Epic Crime Saga, it's still here. They're letting us do what we want. James isn't canceling us. We swear Batman Part 2 is definitely going to come out. It's definitely going to come out. We swear, guys. We swear.
and then Josh Horowitz is just like, all right, okay, are you on drugs?
I mean, the guy it's just interesting. It just, to me, it speaks of there's somebody who's obviously had some stuff going on in his personal life that he's trying to deal with, but at the same time, his focus is finally after years. I don't know what he was doing for the last 3 or 4 years. Even if something has been going on in his life, I'm like 3 or 4 years is a long time. It finally seems like he's got his focus down on the Batman 2 because he wants to have it, go into production this year. But again, the quote from him was, "What the future brings, I can't really tell you. We'll have to see where that goes." And it just, and he said, like, it depends on whether it makes sense, whether or not it makes sense. What do you think, John? Do you think it actually makes sense to even do this? Because the worlds are so different, but at the same time, I'm like, you can find a way. It's like the DCU, James Gunn said, is meant
as Jeff
to be
Goldblum
not
says,
very monotonous anyway. So
finds a way. So
yeah,
I want it to be separate purely on the grounds I want a Batman to. I can't see Robert Pattinson being friends with Superman, and that's what James Gunn has essentially promised. It's just like it's too confined. Like I understand people like, oh, we want to see Pattinson as fucking, I don't want to see it. I want to see a different Batman. I agree with Derpy. I wouldn't say I hate the idea. Like again, if it's revealed tomorrow, we're combining the universes, then it's like, okay, I'll let them cook. But I'm more like I really don't want to see it. Like I want to see like a middle of the road Batman who's not like at the beginning like Christian Bale or Michael Keaton, or I don't want to see a full on just grizzled veteran like we got with Ben Affleck. So I want to see like a middle road where we've gotten an established Batman who's like knows what's what, but isn't like, I'm gonna fucking kill people because I'm dark and mysterious now and I gotta kill. I don't want to fucking see that shit. So I just I wanna, and I don't, I'm sick of early Batman. I'm sick of realistic Batman, and the DCU is the chance to get a Batman that isn't like that. No, we kind of got close with Ben Affleck, but it was still like Snyder's Batman, where it was like he fucking kills people. He fights Superman. He does all this, and it's just like I don't want to see that either. I want to see Clark and Bruce be besties. Like that's what I want to see, and I want to see like a Batman that's not realistic. Like, I know that's like, oh, but he's, he's a guy with, that Batman can't fucking exist. Like, that's what I want. That's the type of Batman I want to see. Like, a Batman that can't exist. Like, I know it's easy because it's like, oh, he's human, he's relatable. Well, first off, he's a billionaire, so I don't know how relatable you find that unless you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. And Bruce actually helps like poor people, so that's definitely not the case with either of those two guys. So I think I think that would just be a mistake, and whatever it is, I hope that the Batman still continues on, because I could see that getting better with sequels, because I didn't love the first one, but it's just like, again, I'm just kind of sick of that, because it's like, I'm sick of like, I need to become more hopeful, I need to become better. It's like, okay, we've gotten that with like the last Batman iterations. Like, let's try to do something different, and I feel like with the DCU we can get something different. Now, Andy Muschietti is a little not great in my eyes, because it's just like his Batman. I understand his Batman was stuck. I know there's a lot of studio interference with the Flash, and there was a lot of like with his Batman. Maybe he didn't make those choices of like, because like there was the fucking stupid joke. It's like, I beat up poor people. Like that bullshit fucking art. Like, I don't want to see that either. Like, even as a joke, like I'm like, all I do is beat up poor people. It's just such a fucking garbage take, and it's just like, it's coming from people that don't fucking understand Batman as a character. So I want like Batman that can go toe to toe with gods, kind of thing. Like be on a team with gods, but like not having him fucking like murder people and shit like that. It's I want to see like, I don't want to see origin shit, but I don't want to see an adaptation of Dark Knight Returns. Like, I want to, there's been fucking 80 years of Batman. Frank Miller isn't the only motherfucker who has written Batman. There are other better, I fucking said it, better iterations of Batman than Dark Knight fucking Returns. So just like, give us a little bit of Scott Snyder. Give us a little bit of fucking, I don't know, Grant Morrison. Give us something. Give us, fucking Joker's 5-way revenge. Like, whatever it is, like Batman Black and White. Like, anything from the 90s is like peak Batman media in terms of comics. So like, just anything from that era is great. So like, so you don't just have, Frank Miller isn't the only Batman writer. He's not the only fucking Batman writer. I pray to God they don't fucking use Tom King's run, but that's beside the point. But I just want fantastical Batman. I want him wearing blue and gray spandex. I want, maybe he's really big, maybe he's really small. I don't really care about the bigness. I don't care if he's like Jack Reacher size or all that. Boom. Yeah. Thank you. Blah, blah, blah. That is very helpful. I have it on my shelf. Oh, actually, do I have it? I actually don't think I have Serious. Dan, remind me to go buy Serious House on Serious Earth. Anyway, that's for anybody watching. That's what Batman Arkham Asylum is based on, by the way. Roughly based on. But yeah, I just like, I'm excited for Batman Part 2, but keep it its own thing. I'm excited for whatever, like Catwoman. Maybe they bring the Arkham show back. Maybe they bring the GCPD show back. I'm excited for the Becks, despite its very dumb title, and that
it's
universe.
Just so like,
I'm excited for that universe, but like, I also want to see a Batman that is best friends with Superman. That's what I want to see, and he's established, not grizzled veteran, not origin, established. We get a little. I want to see the Bat family. That's what I want to. Like, if we bring fucking this Battinson into the fucking DCU, we're not gonna get the Bat family. I wanna fucking see the Bat family. I want to see Nightwing. I want to see Red Hood eventually. I don't think they're gonna start with Red Hood immediately. I want to see Batgirl. I want to see fucking Cassandra Cain. I want to see Batwing. I want to see like fucking Azrael. Fuck it. I want to see Batwoman, a good Batwoman. Like, I want to see all these characters who are inspired by his crusade, and fucking Tim Drake. And I'm excited to see Damian Wayne. I know everyone has a hate boner for Damian Wayne, but which is fair. He started out terrible, but he fucking developed. Shut up. And Catwoman. Like, I'd love to see this iteration of Catwoman be romantically involved with Batman. That was like the only decent thing from the Tom King run, and he squandered that because, again, Tom King can't write DC. So, but that's I again. They're both keep them separate. Segregate the Batmans. That's it. Keep them separate. I want to see DCU, whether it's be thick boy Batman, but I want to see like a Batman that can't exist. Sick of this realistic shit. Fuck realism. Fantastical. Give it to me all day.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, I think it's fair because we are going to get the Bat family in the DCU, so that's definitely a reason. Mano's asking, do you think Robert Pattinson has the age to introduce us to Dick Grayson? I don't know. I mean, they could, but I think it's still too early.
He is almost 40.
But it's not about even that. It's about the fact that he's playing a year or two Batman. He's clearly playing a lot younger of a character than he is in real life.
I thought you meant like introducing Robert Pattinson into. Okay, no, now I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Could, yeah, I could. Maybe in like the third movie, like maybe but the thing is, it's like, this takes place like 2 weeks after Penguin, so it's like I don't know how you're gonna make that.
I don't know how that still works. I hope they change that, for what it's worth. But you guys got a couple of good comments. I mean, blah 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 with a suggestion. But then again, that's what that Fox Gotham show was. It was about Jim Gordon. So I don't know if they're gonna want to do that again. Obviously, it would be better if they did it with Jeffrey Wright and did it on HBO. But I still wouldn't want to necessarily retread that ground. But there's a good point. It's not a good. I mean, look. I think it's an interesting point that Ron made, that maybe they should put the Batman Part 2 on just streaming and then have the DCU Batman, the Brave and the Bold, be on cinemas. I think there's any. There is no way they're gonna do that because it's just you're leaving so much money on the table, and quite frankly, now, the Brave and the Bold is an untested property, whereas the Batman has already made over $700 million. So there's no way that's going to happen. And yes, maybe we are underestimating how confusing it is to the average audience. Maybe. But I think, overall people can differentiate. And then, sometimes when people can't differentiate, as long as it's a good movie, they're not going to care if it's connected to the DCU or not, right? Like, it's a lot of the average audience who just wants to see a movie and they go to the theater and there's the Batman 2's playing. Great. That means it's a sequel. Or is it a sequel to the one that we saw before? Yes. Okay, great. That's all you need to know. And even then, some people will walk in and watch it without having seen the Penguin or the Batman. And you know what? Quite frankly, I think there's a lot of people who probably watched the Penguin and then went back and watched the Batman because that show stands up on its own. They give you just enough context at the beginning of the show that you can start by watching the show and then go back and watch the movie. So I get your point, but Ron, I don't think that's going to be the case. But actually, before we get to that comment from blah blah blah, I wanted to kind of go through a couple of the reasons this article points out about why this would be a bad idea. I know you kind of mentioned a few of them already, but I just think it's interesting because they kind of go through them one by one. The DC Comics has always had two Batmans, a harder sell. It's a harder sell in live action. I don't know, how it would be difficult because obviously this Batman, you giving him a Damian Wayne would be hard to pull off. I mean, that right there to me doesn't quite match up. So it's right there, then and there. It's like the mythology of this Batman versus the one that we are gonna get in the DCU is just so different. It doesn't make any sense. Then the idea that the universe of the DCU is going to be a bit more fantastical. Superman can exist in that universe. You have, the Lantern Corps and stuff. The Reeves Batman universe doesn't feel like that. So it's just a lot of those elements just won't fit. Like, can you imagine, Robert Pattinson's Batman meeting G.I. Robot or Dr. Phosphorus or stuff? It's like it's hard to reconcile those different things all together. It just to me, it doesn't make sense. It just, I mean, yes, you can make anything work if you really wanted to, but quite frankly, like it's you'll be pulling teeth to put those pieces together. It's hard, especially once you get to the Justice
mental
League.
Gymnastics, the grasping at straws. It would be the only way I could see this working is if they just have Robert Pattinson be Batman, but it's like it's just a different Batman. They just so happen to be played by the same actor. That's the only thing I could see that working.
Which is, and now that's more confusing than doing it.
That would be more
yeah,
confusing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And doing the whole Earth 1, Earth 2 thing, like you said, Silhouette Animator, I mean, look, I think it's too early to get into the multiverse. Like, they're just starting to tell this story. You do not want to, like, all of a sudden be so sprawling that, it starts to confuse people, because then they'll start asking questions. Does that mean Henry Cavill's Superman exists in another alternate timeline? Is Ben
that's
Affleck's
always going to be the case,
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, you do not want to start those
that.
conversations. You do not want to, because that's what the internet will be talking about. And then, the discourse gets away from the core focus of the stories you are trying to tell. So I don't know if you want to open up that can of worms this early in the game. Maybe that's like a phase or chapter 2 kind of a thing. Or the Watcher saying, unless Epic Crime Saga is the past, that's his theory. And then the Batman Brave and the Bold is the present same Batman.
That's pushing.
It's still a stretch. And that's actually, like you said, that's a lot of mental gymnastics to do for people who are going to watch.
Bro, you got to be Simone Biles with that mental gymnastics, my guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to work. Just please stop. It's just like they see the only people that want this, the people that want this to happen are just like, they just don't want the confusion's sake. Like they're like, we don't want two Batmen running around. That's, I think, because I can't see anyone like seeing this and being like who knows anything about these characters. Oh yeah, this definitely should. I think it's just coming from people who just don't want the confusion, and they think they would look cool side by side. Like, oh, it looks cool. Okay, then we're getting into Zack Snyder territory. It's like, oh, it looks cool. That doesn't fucking matter on the surface. Yeah, sure, but like, yeah, I don't want to like. If you get deep into that shit, it's gonna be shit. So like, let's not do that, please.
Yeah. And Silhouette Animator saying that, his or her point was not to have a crossover, but that this Batman exists in a different continuity, but it's part of the larger multiverse of the DCU, which I think is the intention. The Elseworld stories are like other parallel timelines. They can choose to cross them over in the future if they wanted to. I think that's already sort of like an unsaid thing. They don't need to address it directly until they need to do a crossover. It's kind of the same way as what they did in the Flash movie, right? Like all of those other timelines.
Perfectly. Batman is exponentially more popular than Superman, as you say all the time, which I'm not going to deny that. I prefer Superman, but Batman is more popular. Gunn will have his own Batman. Bank on that. You're going to be getting two Batman. Yep. You're going to be getting two Batmans, two Batmen, whatever you want to call it. That's like infinite money glitch. That's like just fucking typing motherload into your fucking WB vaults. It's just like that's just like you're printing money with that.
I mean, that's like literally Sony's wet dream, right? Because they would have loved to have been able to put Spider-Man in all those like Venom movies and
they could.
And Madam Web.
You didn't hear about that? They could have. They
could have. Yeah, no, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it was a thing where it was like it was finally revealed that like. They could have used Spider-Man at any point. They didn't have like a deal with like with Marvel Disney that like, oh, you couldn't use Spider-Man. They could have used Spider-Man at any point. They just didn't.
What? Dude, that's so
They just made bad movies because they could.
That is so stupid. I don't get it. I don't get it, Sony. I was giving you all the compliments for your anime chops earlier, but like clearly there's a few pieces missing there. I'm like, there's so much potential. I do get the point, though, they didn't want to have two live-action Spider-Man running around, but, I mean, fuck, they have, like, the animated Spider-Man at the same time, Miles Morales. Why not have a second Peter Parker? Clearly, DC, I mean, maybe DC will show them that is possible. And when they do resume that, Sony universe of Spider-Man characters, whatever, they will bring a Spider-Man in there. Maybe we'll get an Andrew Garfield return. Who knows? But this would be, I'm all for it. By the way, Silhouette Animator saying Sony messed that up by putting Peter's birth in 2003 in Madam Web. So MCU Peter Parker's birth was in 2001.
Yeah, it's different universe.
So like it doesn't need to line up. It doesn't need to be Tom Holland Spider-Man. It could be a different one.
It's going to be a different Spider-Man.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing it. And then the figure drawing saying, I mean, for Gunn to bring in Matt Reeves into the Gunverse, no. Gunn knows that would steal some of the spotlight, and I bet he knows it's just a bridge too far. I don't know if it means like that, Matt Reeves is stealing the spotlight from James Gunn or the other way around. I think it's just more a matter of you don't need to. there's no like they're not desperate
really
for the.
don't need
It's not like it's a dying DCEU and you need to attach something that's successful and you retcon that Robert Pattinson's Batman is the DCEU Batman. You've got two universes here that can stand apart and be successful at the same time, and so you don't need to. I mean, you really don't need to. Business wise, again, it makes sense, but story wise, it feels out of place. Manos, exactly. We agree with you on that front. Now, of course, we had a comment earlier from blah blah blah, which I thought was really clever and nicely timed, of course, for us because we were going to talk about the comment that Matt Reeves made regarding the villain for the movie. So blah 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 said, "Who do you think, guys, that will be the villain in part 2 of the Batman?" Matt Reeves did say that it is locked, but or it's locked in, but has not been announced. Who do you think it will be? And it's specifically what he said when he was asked about the main villain of the Batman 2 was he sees the rumors online about who it is potentially, but then he just said, look at them casually. He looks at them casually and goes like, "Oh, is that what they think now? Interesting." So I guess he's
Condiment
saying
King, to answer your question.
I guess Matt Reeves is saying, well, maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe Mr. Freeze isn't it. Maybe it's not going to be the Penguin. Maybe the
I
Penguin's
think
just
it's going to be
around,
like somebody way different. I think, it'd be really cool if okay, so Court of Owls, I don't think they're going to do Court of Owls this early. I think that's going to be because we're getting a trilogy. We're not going to get more than a trilogy.
They need to build up to it a bit more. Maybe like you
because we're not
introduce
getting
the pieces. Yeah.
we're not getting Batman 3 until like 2032. So Hugo Strange could be good, but if this is the case, okay, I know this is me kind of grasping at straws, but that's what the show's about. So let's say Matt Reeves,
Yeah.
there's no, absolutely nothing, Court of Owls, no, Mr. Freeze, no, Professor Pig, no, Hush, no. One I could see, especially with the power vacuum that we saw in the Penguin with Carmine Falcone's death, I could see Black Mask being a villain if they want to go the gangster route that was kind of present in the first Batman, with Carmine Falcone and Sal Maroni, which continued into the Penguin. If they really want to go into that gangster mobster type of vibe,
It is the
I could see
epic crime saga after all.
So I could see Black Mask because I don't think they would want to do something that's close to Riddler, because I think someone like Professor Pig, Dollmaker, Victor Zsasz, I think that would be too close to what they changed the Riddler into. So Black Mask could introduce some big things. He could be behind a lot of shit they don't, because I know a lot of people say, oh, it's going to be bigger and it's going to be a lot of conspiracy shit. The Puzzler. And people think Court of Owls. Now, that could be the case, but if we're going off of what Matt Reeves is saying here, then he's well, none of you are right. Fuck all your theories. He's going full Rian Johnson, but he actually makes good movies still. So, I don't think I never really saw Black. I think Black Mask was hey, and then Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow with the Julian Rush thing, Hugo Strange, Court of Owls. Those are the big ones that I keep seeing. Black Mask, I haven't really seen that much. So, I think he kind of did a little drive-by where it's maybe it was one, and then that's it. So that could be the case. But I'm trying to think of really big villains that that could work. Maybe what they could do, they could combine characters. For instance, maybe they can use they can combine Deadshot and Talon. So he's Floyd Lawton, but he's Talon. So it could then later on introduce Court of Owls. So they would we're combining characters, and that could be the main villain sort of thing. Bringing into the conspiracy bigger stuff that we're going to be getting into later on, but we're going to be getting this smaller villain. And Talon is kind of a good villain, but he's maybe not popular enough. So they'll bring in Deadshot. That could be something. They could bring in, maybe Man Bat. Man Bat could be good. I know that's not big that Matt Reeves is promising, but it could work in the way of he's trying to be. KGBs could. Yeah, that could also be the case. But yeah, they could like, oh, Batman is like not becoming vengeance. He's becoming hopeful and he's becoming better and he's thinking of the people. He's not just thinking of like that whole thing. Then Man Bat comes in and he's taking away that thunder. He's like kind of like On Leather Wings, which was the first episode of Batman the Animated Series. Where it was like Batman is like getting framed for stuff he didn't do, and it turns out it's Man Bat. I think that could be interesting as well.
Yeah.
That should be the end game. That should be like the final movie, whatever it is, whether it's the third movie or they're going to be like, Matt Reeves, you're taking too long. We're going to have somebody else take the reins so we can continue the Batman epic crime saga. He's like, cool, I'll be an executive producer. So they'll do that. So I could do something like that.
I mean, like, I do also think that the Penguin, now that he's becoming a part of like the upper echelon of the Gotham society in a manner of speaking, maybe that is kind of how he finds his way, as, you know, his last name is Cobb, you know, based on the Court of Owls in the comics. Like, maybe he finds his way into the Court of Owls somehow. Maybe he has a connection over time that develops or is revealed to us. But on a side note, do you remember when we were speculating early on in the Penguin, when it was airing, that maybe Victor is gonna be Victor Zsasz?
Yeah. Oh, he has the same. No, he's gonna be Cyborg.
Didn't work out.
His name is Victor.
All that well. Yikes. But Meta's Time asking a question. He's saying, what happens to Brave and the Bold script if Robert Pattinson is introduced in the DCU? They've been working on it, but does that get 100% scrapped, or does it become Elseworlds? Well, I don't think we have to worry about that, because I think these two movies stay separate. These two universes stay separate. If that was to happen, then, you know, I think the only way that James Gunn takes that drastic step is if that script is in such bad shape that they want to scrap it all together, and then bring in Matt Reeves and be like, you know what, why don't you bring those set of stories and we'll find a way to fit them into the DCU. But I just don't think, you know, we're going to get to that point. So it's not, it's just not going to happen. Yeah.
No.
Yep. Victor was a victim after all. Oh, yes. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
No,
Very
they'll
well
bring
put.
him. They'll bring him back via the Lazarus Pit, and then
Do you think Ra's al Ghul is the villain of the second movie?
That could be a big one, but the thing is, then you're already rehashing shit with the Nolan trilogy. So I don't think
the
they're gonna do
comparisons
that.
will be there for sure. Yeah.
But maybe they'll actually get like a Middle Eastern or Tibetan guy instead of a white guy with a Fu Manchu mustache.
Yeah, that's the only part about that doesn't age well for me. But I still appreciate Liam Neeson, of course, like the man, you know, the myth, the legend. So,
I mean, he is great. It's just like, it's so like weird how it was like, I don't know, like, great movie, but like, buddy, yeah, the ventriloquist, that would be amazing. That would be fucking amazing. I mean, then the Jigsaw comparisons will be there, because it's like the ventriloquist will be the bad guy, and then Scarface is like a Jigsaw puppet type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We want to play a little game. Anyway.
The Watcher's not a fan of the idea of, you know, the Batman Begins level of grounded. Although, I mean, look, I feel like the Batman is already Batman Begins level of grounded.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's pretty realistic.
So it's still noir and slightly surreal. Like, I don't think it's as realistic as the Dark Knight movies were, but it's kind of more in line with Batman Begins.
No, we're nipping that in the butt. Stop that.
Yeah. Ron saying Batmite should be the villain. Yeah, I mean, probably for the DCU Batman.
He's not really a villain, though. He's just a super.
Yeah, if they were to do that, I mean, we know that he exists in the DCU, but not necessarily in the Batman universe. Batman Epic Crime Saga. Oh, God, that is a stupid name. But anyway. But hey, look, this is the story. Matt Reeves didn't quite show. He could have easily said, no, we're not going to do this. That's just not possible. But instead, he chose to say, well, it would have to make sense. I kind of really don't know what the future is going to look like. I'm focused on the Batman Part 2. I have a feeling that James Gunn has been up his butt about some of this stuff, because he's taking his mighty damn time, and James Gunn is there trying to like establish. Because here's the thing. Now these movies, like, you know, Matt Reeves, now that the DC Studios is a thing, anytime there's a delay, it does interfere with the DCU, even if it's not attached to the DCU story, because you have to think about how many movies does DC want to put out in a year. You're still under the umbrella of DC Studios, so like you have resources like directors and producers and people in house on the staff at DC Studios who are involved in all these productions. Peter Safran, James Gunn themselves will be part of the process as well. They have to divide their resources between all the different DCU projects and the Elseworlds projects. And there are, of course, even that J.J. Abrams Superman movie is still somewhere, meandering in the halls of DC Studios. That Constantine sequel is still meandering somewhere in the halls of DC Studios.
Yep.
Maybe the Batman Beyond movie is still in the works somewhere. I mean, we have also heard of like other Elseworlds projects potentially. So it's not like Matt Reeves is working. I mean, he might have creative control over the character and the story he's trying to tell, but from a purely logistical and production standpoint, it does matter when the Batman 2 gets released because it has an effect on the other movies. Remember, because until it got moved, the Batman Part 2 was set to come out like literally a month after Clayface. And James Gunn was like, it doesn't matter because there are two different universes, and a month apart is still plenty of time, but it just felt too closely tied together that you were gonna get Clayface, and then because people would have thought, oh wait, we just had a Clayface movie, so is this connected? Like, you want to create a bit more separation than that. So I'm glad. I mean, in that respect, I'm glad that they pushed the Batman a little bit further back. But I do hope that they, if they are able to film it and get it through production fast enough in post-production, maybe they can pull it back from October 2027 to March, because it's just too long, man. We keep saying it. It's just taking way too long for them to get this done. But hey, let us know in the comments what you think. We're going to continue the conversation later on. I'm sure Matt Reeves now seems to be, walking the party line, that he's focused on the Batman Part 2. He's focused, as John convinced us thoroughly in his best Matt Reeves impression earlier. So with that in mind, we're going to move on. So, John, let's talk about Supergirl.
Yes.
Supergirl,
the next film of the DCU.
The next film of DCU after Superman. Now, The Woman of Tomorrow is based on a comic that a lot of us have either read, or if you haven't read, then we have now certainly heard of because it's what the movie is based on. And they are adapting it. In fact, we're going to take a look at an image later where it's literally the cover page of the script, and it says based on, A Woman of Tomorrow, which of course was written by Tom King. So now that we know that this, movie is all casted up, they've got the crew, and we know when it's going into production, which is literally a few days from today when we are doing the show. I think it's about time that we kind of go through and basically count back everything that we know about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, because we did this before Superman went into production. I think it's time we do that with Supergirl. So with that in mind, John, I wanted to get your opinion before we actually dive into the details. Are you really excited about Supergirl, knowing everything that you do, or are you still sort of skeptical given that still Tom King is involved in this and he's not your favorite writer? Millie Alcock is still, I mean, even though she was obviously really good in House of the Dragon, she's still somewhat of an unknown commodity and in terms of the movies. What are your thoughts on Supergirl so far?
I'm on the fence. I want to be excited, but the thing is, I like can't, because it's like it's based on judgment that I don't have. Like Craig Gillespie, I've seen maybe one of his movies. I would have to double check his filmography, but I haven't seen I, Tonya. I haven't seen his god awful fucking Cruella movie. I haven't seen Dumb Money. I haven't seen Lars and the Real Girl. So the only movie I have seen of his, the only two movies I have seen of his are his Fright Night remake, which I did not like very much, and The Finest Hours, which was fucking terrible. So, yes, time to talk about Lobo. We'll get to that soon. But Craig Gillespie, I think, Fright Night was okay. It wasn't like bad, but it was like pales in comparison to the original film. And so I think that's kind of it's tough for me to judge because I haven't seen this entire, because the man did get fucking nominated for I, Tonya. I've heard great things about Lars and the Real Girl. I've heard good things about $1 Million Arm. I've heard mixed things about Cruella and Dumb Money. So obviously we'll see. But he did direct and executively produced Pam and Tommy as well. So there was that. I've heard great things about that. So he's got like a rather mixed
Is that a bad
resume.
thing? I don't know. Krypton's logo was too Scottish.
I mean,
I don't know. I think Fiona and Lenny would love it.
Lenny bursts in and be like, "The fuck you say?" So I
What's
think,
wrong with that?
I can't really. We can't. Nobody on planet Earth can judge Anna Nogueira except for James Gunn, and the people in the movie who read the script.
She too is a bit of an unknown commodity, right? As a screenwriter, she hasn't done a feature script on this scale before.
Has written a play, like one play. And then James Gunn is like, oh, the script is blessed from the start, greatest fucking thing I've ever read. So it's like, all right, goddamn.
Yeah.
But so I can't judge that. I can't judge Millie Alcock because I haven't seen House of the Dragon or any of her other, Australian. A lot of Australian people in this movie. I haven't seen any of her Australian projects where she originated, and the only one I can judge is Matthias Schoenaerts, who's been in a couple movies. I've seen him in a couple things, and he's a good actor. Jason Momoa is great. I love him. And who else? I remember doing a story about the costume designer, and she's
we're gonna get into. We're definitely gonna get into all of that. I just wanted to kind of get your opinion, early on,
I'm just saying, in regards to everything, I can't judge it too much. The only things I can really judge are Matthias Schoenaerts, who I've seen a couple things from, and Jason Momoa, who we've seen as Aquaman. So the only thing that's gonna keep me going, I haven't even seen the Ruthie character, whoever's playing her, Eve Ridley, I think her name is.
We will get into that too. Yeah,
I haven't seen them, so I can't I'm on the fence because the only thing I know for a fact is, based on a Tom King story that leaves me a little irksome, and the talent I haven't seen enough of to truly judge. So I'm I am sitting on the chain link fence being unable to go to either side. So that's how I am.
Well, I mean, as the Watcher said, it will be an introduction to the cosmic side of the DCU for us, especially this early on where, Lanterns comes right after Supergirl, so I guess, yes, this would be the introduction to something a little more cosmic, because even though Superman himself is an alien, we're going to have other aliens or kaijus in that movie, you're still going to have a very earthbound story, and then that's the same for Peacemaker Season 2, of course, Cruiser Commandos as well. So until we get to Supergirl, we're not really going out into the cosmos with the DCU. So kind of like what the Guardians of the Galaxy did for the early MCU days, I think this is kind of the equivalent with Supergirl. And so good comparison there, Watcher. Now, with that said, I want to start off with a story here where there was a rumor going around for a while that Alexander Skarsgård and maybe even Bill Skarsgård had both auditioned for the Creme of the Yellow Hills character. He recently said that, hey, not only was I not the first choice, I ain't interested at all, because this was the rumor, and then he recently just shut the rumor down completely, saying, no, I was at home, and there were rumors that me and Alex were competing. I was like, no one's called me, never read for it, never talked to James Gunn, that is. So he pretty much said that, hey man, we weren't interested in Creme of the Yellow Hill. We definitely did not, audition for Lex Luthor. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you believe that these guys, the two brothers, were involved at any point, whether it's for Lex Luthor or whether it's for, Creme of the Yellow Hill?
I mean, I'd be willing to believe Alexander Skarsgård was the top choice, and they're like, shit, we can't get the A-lister. Might as well get this Matthias Schoenaerts guy. So, I mean, no offense to him.
He would have been a good pick. I mean, again, a very high-profile actor.
Alexander Skarsgård is a name. Matthias Schoenaerts isn't really a name, so much so you can barely pronounce the name. To all us, uneducated, fucking uncultured bitches. So, if this was the case, then it would have been a good choice. But I have faith that Schoenaerts will do a good job. Fuck you for that dad joke. Anyway, but yeah, I think would have been a good choice. The fact that they didn't isn't a huge deal. He can move on to other things, and whatever that may be, I think that's fine. That could be good, but that would be really big for way later on. And
Blackest Night, I think, is something they gotta wait to tackle as a Green Lantern story.
But that would work because it seems like with the older Hal Jordan, he's maybe gonna die, maybe turn into Parallax, and
Yeah.
that's what. And Blackest Night was kind of after like Hal Jordan, like he came back in Green Lantern Rebirth. He kind of built his way up, and then Blackest Night happened. So they could do that, but again, that might be too old now because Kyle Chandler's 59, and
Yeah.
that might be too late because that would be like 10 years down the line, and he would be like 70. So I think we're past a Blackest Night adaptation at this point, which sucks, but like I think that's too much to ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and as Man of Time is saying, I think Alexander Skarsgård should probably play a bigger role than what might be, in this case, like a one-off character, because I don't know if Krem is going to survive the movie. Or if he does, I don't know how big of a role he has in the larger DC or will have. I feel like if you're going to bring in somebody the caliber of Alexander Skarsgård, even a Bill Skarsgård, you should bring them into a role that's probably going to get a few appearances. Not just like a one-off villain, So I do agree with you. But talking about like maybe Bradley Cooper needs a role, maybe give it to him. Well, we do have somebody who has been cast for the role of Creme of the Yellow Hill or Yellow Hills. Of course, Alexander Skarsgård would have been fantastic, but he was a first choice even if he was. And yes, you know what? With Nicholas Hoult is going to be a Lex Luthor, I wouldn't mind. I think we actually did a fan casting before Nicholas Hoult got cast, and we had both of the Skarsgård brothers in there. So we have definitely gone over these things before. But let's talk about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and the stuff that we do know about it, rather than speculating or rumors that we have heard of. So we're gonna just divide it up a little bit. I think the article here in Collider does a good job. So John, first I wanted to kind of get you to kind of give us a quick summary on who is Supergirl in essence, especially the Woman of Tomorrow version of Supergirl that we're gonna get. What kind of iteration are we gonna get? Is it gonna be similar to what we got in the DCEU in the Flash? Is it gonna be closer to the TV show Supergirl that went on for so many seasons? Is it like the Supergirl that was in the Christopher Reeve continuity, or is this something completely different? Because of course it is based specifically on the Woman of Tomorrow comic book.
I think we're gonna get like a mix of different things. Now, if I were to take a guess, they're probably gonna be doing the newer continuity backstory with her being rocketed with Kal-El at the same time she gets knocked off course, and she doesn't get to Earth until way later. That is like usually the backstory they go with. Argo City is just kind of weird, to a little bit too Silver Age.
Yeah.
I could see that, but it's more likely that it's just they both sent off. She got knocked off course, and then he got to Earth, she didn't. So I could see that happening. No, it could be set after, because they could make it so that like they've met, and like maybe this takes place a couple years later, or a year later, and Crypto is like, Superman's like, well, I'm stuck here on Earth, I can't help you, but Crypto, he can help you.
Or
And
like
so
Crypto, you go with Kara, take care of her, she'll take care of
Exactly.
you, kind of thing. Maybe yeah.
Yeah, like I could see them doing that. That's my theory, is that Crypto came with Clark and they got to Earth and then she didn't. So I
Spoiler
think
alert.
that's what I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Manus is asking, like, what about you, Dan? What are your thoughts on that project so far? Just really quickly before we continue on with the conversation, I think this movie is finally giving Supergirl the big screen, treatment, like the big blockbuster tentpole treatment that it deserves. Because the character of Supergirl has for the longest time gotten like second billing. I mean, yes, outside of the Jobber Superman era of Supergirl, the TV show. I think Supergirl like has generally been treated as just like a spin-off side character to Superman, which I think she's more than that. She's not just, oh, there's a Superman, therefore there's a Supergirl. Even though that's maybe where things started, I think the character has such a rich history now, and Woman of Tomorrow is one of the best comics, showing a side of Supergirl that we don't necessarily always see. Certainly, we haven't seen that iteration in live action. Something that's a little edgier, a little darker, and it gives you a lot of dramatic moments to explore, a lot of growth that has to happen. This Supergirl, saw a lot of really terrible shit go down. She didn't just get put into a pod necessarily and get sent to Earth and just wake up in Kansas and then grow up with the Kents. The Supergirl saw like her parents die and Krypton die. That's, if they're going off the comic book, at least that's where they're headed with this. So I think it gives us an opportunity to see whereas Superman is going to be a brighter take on the character, this Supergirl seems to be going the other direction compared to the other Supergirl characters we have seen. I mean, yes, the Supergirl in the Flash was kind of like, she's in prison, she's really had a bad experience with humans, and so, but really it was a side character. We didn't really get to explore that iteration so much, even though Sasha Kaya did a great job with what she was given. I'm looking forward to seeing, just what it looks like having Supergirl literally get her own movie, and Millie Alcock is talented enough that I think she can lead the film and lead it to places where the character has never been before. This movie, in my opinion, has a potential to make at least what the first Wonder Woman did, which was like over 700 million, similar to the Batman. And potentially even more. I mean, especially because it's going to be coming after Superman, which will set the stage so people are like, oh, this is the next movie in the same franchise. And if Superman does really well, then people are going to flock to the theater even more so to see Supergirl. So I'm really excited for that. And Figure Drawing saying DC should have borrowed Marvel casting directors law. No, I mean, I think they're doing a pretty good job so far. And you guys are getting into the height of the character thing. Millie Alcock's only 5'2", saying Figure Drawing, and then he's also mentioning that Supergirl should look super next to Superman, who's 6'4". Not necessarily. I mean, honestly, I don't care. And even if there is a height difference, you can totally work around that. The way you film the characters, like I bring up every time. Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz did that movie Night and Day, and there's a lot of scenes in there where they're standing next to each other, and they make Tom Cruise look as tall as Cameron Diaz, even though he's not. Like, they make him look as tall as a lot of his co-leads, even though he's not necessarily. And that's not just him. There's a lot of other examples of that. So you can, if you wanted to, clearly fake that. Like, you don't need to make it so that Millie Alcock looks like she's a good foot and a half shorter than David Cornsweet. So I think that that's not something that I usually get concerned about. It's all about the magic of filmmaking. So you can definitely get around it. Now, we also just talked about a little bit of what we think the movie is going to be about, especially if it's based on the comic. So with that in mind, let's kind of talk a little bit further about the cast of the movie, right? So we have been hinting at it so far. The 4 leads that we have got are on the screen here. I've also kind of pulled them up on the this notebook that I've got here, where we kind of noted down everything we know. So we know the release date is June 26, 2026. So it's a year and a half away. And then the main cast, we know 4 names so far. Millie Alcock, of course, as the titular Supergirl, Kara Zor-El. Jason Momoa being the biggest name so far and the latest name to join in as Lobo. You see Matthias Schoenaerts as Creme of the Yellow Hills, and we see Eve Ridley, who's going to be playing Ruthie Marie Knoll. And James Gunn, as late as a few months ago, was saying he was, I think around New York Comic Con, that he had just been seeing auditions for Ruthie. So Ruthie was probably, cast not that long ago. And Matthias Schoenaerts also got cast over the summer of last year. So they've got their leads. I mean, these are the leads of the movie. I mean, we don't know how much Lobo is going to be in there, but we definitely know that he's already got the script. I mentioned earlier that, on the cover of the script, it says based on the comic by Tom King and Bilquis Evely. It's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. James Gunn's already sent out, or not James Gunn, but Craig Gillespie's already sent out copies, whether it's for Lobo's eyes only or otherwise. John, of the cast that I've mentioned here, the 4 names, the 4 actors, clearly Millie Alcock and Jason Momoa have those Game of Thrones connections, and they're probably the 2 most well-known names. But just how much do you think the other characters of Ruthie and Creme of the Yellow Hills are going to factor into the story? Particularly because Ruthie is the character that's out for revenge on Creme for killing her parents, and Supergirl kind of gets caught up in the story, and then you got, of course, Lobo somehow tying into this. How do you think this is going to play out? Do you think this cast has the potential to, again, just have some breakout performances, especially with the 2 lesser-known actors?
I think so. I think this might it'll either make or break names. Worst comes to worst, we'll just get a Lobo movie out of this. This will fail, but you know what, Jason Momoa, we already promised you a Lobo movie. Let's, my main man, But I think, I like the cast. I think it's a good cast. And from what is known outside of the realm of what I know, known pop culturally in terms
Yeah.
of what people have seen. People have said Millie Alcock's a great actress. I've seen Matthias Schoenaerts. I think he's a good actor. Jason Momoa was awesome. Again, perfect for Lobo. I've said this for
Yep.
years.
He's
Eve
literally
Ridley,
Lobo in
I
real
don't think
life.
I've
You know that.
seen Eve Ridley in anything, but I'm sure she'll. Hopefully, she'll be good because usually child actors are kind of either really hit or really miss. So I hope she's on the really hit part. But yeah.
Yep. By the way, the question the watcher was asking, do you think that Supergirl's costume is going to be similar to that of Superman? I think that all depends on whether Clark's costume in Superman is something that he came up with or his parents did or maybe somebody on Earth did versus whether that's that's like, you know, part of his Kryptonian culture. Given that the
essentially,
Fortress of
yes.
Solitude is going to be a pretty expansive part of the movie, at least based on the trailer so far, I'd imagine his suit has some Kryptonian heritage. So my inkling would be, to answer your question, Watcher, is that Supergirl's costume is going to be similar, because I do believe the costume we're seeing is like a Kryptonian costume. It's not just something that, you know, that they just made on Earth just because, you know, it needs. I mean, yes, you can have his crest and everything, but you could still have it be an Earth-made costume. So to that end, I think they're going to match pretty closely. I do believe they're going to match pretty closely.
Yeah. I think what they could do is I think go with, because again it feels like they're going with New 52 kind of shit. Well, especially with the lines and the collar with
Mm-hmm.
you know Superman. I think with her they might go with like a Kryptonian warrior dress,
Yep.
like they did in, like that's what they explained for the New 52. Like that's what her, you know, that's what like Zor-El gave her. And you know, then she got sent to Earth, all that shit. So I think that might be the case. Like I don't think
Mhm.
we're gonna get the traditional Supergirls. Maybe eventually we will, like when, like maybe she's, you know, hanging on so much to like the Kryptonian part that she's gonna be wearing like traditional Kryptonian dress, and
Yeah.
maybe it'll be more like the New 52 suit. Maybe it'll be more like, you know, like the Supergirl, the later Supergirl suit, where it's like kind of like one big onesie type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of like what Superman's is, but still more like Kryptonian. I could see them doing that because it's like I could see this being like a story about like Supergirl letting go of Krypton kind of thing. Like maybe in Supergirl at the beginning, she like just like maybe she's been there for like a couple months. And it's like the great thing about Supergirl's character is that she's nothing like Clark, which is something the TV show majorly failed at. Is that she's an outsider. She remembers Krypton. She was like there for, I think she was like 13, 14 when that went kaput. So, you know, I feel like, or they might make her older here, like she was 18, and you know, they might do that. Whatever they decide to do, maybe she's aged slowly in like the Phantom Zone or revolving around the sun, like in New 52, or whatever they decide to do, like to like make her like whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but like she remembers Krypton. She's kind of a, like, at least with modern interpretations, she's a little bit of an edgier character. I don't want to say edgy because that implies like grimdark crap, but I think she's a little bit more violent. She's not like this happy-go-lucky kind of character. She was kind of in the Silver Age, but that's, I mean, everyone kind of was in the Silver Age. But she's definitely a bit of a darker character, a little bit of a, kind of has that edge to her of like, but she's more of an outsider. Like Superman sees himself as human. He's like, Superman is what I do, Clark is who I am. Like,
Yep.
but she didn't spend her life on Earth. She just got here and she's like, I'm not of these people. I look like them, but I am not of these people.
Right.
So
She
I
relates to
think,
that Earth very differently than Clark does.
yeah, she's like, Earth isn't my people. Krypton is my people. And I feel like that could be real. That hence why I think it is a smart decision to have her first adventure be very cosmic, because it's like she relates more to like space and these planets and this adventure than that of Earth. And I feel like her going into space and her wanting to, like, get drunk for her 21st birthday kind of thing, whatever. I don't know if that's what it was in the book. I don't know if they're gonna do that for the movie, but
They could. Maybe that's how the
they
movie
could.
starts.
I mean, they could. So whatever they decide to do, it doesn't matter. But I think, like, and then maybe through, like, being, like, going through this cosmic adventure, maybe she realizes that maybe Earth can maybe not be my true home, but be my secondary home. Because I feel like that's what Clark is going through in Superman. Like, he is a man of two worlds, and he's gonna try to be in line with his Kryptonian heritage more, because that's what the original synopsis that James Gunn gave us back in January of 2023. So I feel like that could be the case. So Supergirl can kind of go through a similar thing, but it's the reverse. It's, instead of, like, Clark realizing his Kryptonian heritage, it's Supergirl realizing that Earth can be her home as well, and humanity can be her second family. Play the clip if you want. And kind of have it be sort of like a parallel between the two, and make her that. And the reason this is the second movie, really make that work, to have it be that parallel. I think that could be a really interesting case with that.
What's real? It's family.
Yep, I was just waiting for the right time.
Yep.
But of course we have talked about the cast. Now let's talk a little bit about the crew of the, that's behind the scenes. So I put together a whole list. I pulled it off IMDb. I'm snacking a little bit here. It's been a long show, and I'm starting to get a little hungry here. But so you mentioned earlier, John, that Craig Gillespie is directing. Of course, Anna Nogueira wrote the script. It's based on a comic book by Tom King. The character was created by Otto Binder, and then Al Plastino. So you've got, like, the screenwriting credits and everything. I think what interests me a lot is that Rob Hardy is the director of photography and Neil Lamont is a production designer. Two great talents who have done a lot of great work before, and they're certainly not, like, newbies by any means, which means that they're putting some very seasoned veterans in this project on some key department head roles. And then Anna Shepard as the costume designer, also a great pick. And of course you got James Gunn, Peter Safran there as the producers, and you've got a few executive producers as well. And then I noted down that Coley Calhoun is going to be Millie Alcock's dialect coach. Do you feel like Millie Alcock's going to do, like, an American accent in this movie, or do you think they're going to have her just do her... I mean, given that they have a dialect coach, I imagine she's not just going to do her own native Australian accent, right?
No, I don't think they're going to do that.
And so, with that said, though, which of these names on the crew list stand out to you the most? Obviously, the director is going to have a big impact, and Anna Nogueira wrote the screenplay, so she's a crucial part of the picture. But any of these names stick out to you in terms of, like, where you're going to be looking
Rob
for key
Hardy,
elements
definitely.
of success?
I remember we were talking about that way back when. I mean, Mission Impossible Fallout, that had some amazing, that had Superman. Annihilation, Ex Machina. He works with Alex Garland a lot, and Alex Garland does great work. Mission Impossible Fallout. He's done a lot of great stuff, both on film and in television as well. So I think that was definitely a really, really fucking great addition. I think we're gonna get a lot of great stuff with that. So whatever. I'm not as familiar with the other names. But I remember the costume designer, we saw her filmography, and that was really good too. I know she worked on a bunch of other superhero projects, so she has some prowess in regards to that. So maybe it was the production designer. I don't remember. I don't remember if it was production designer or costume designer. It might have been costume designer, but whoever it is, I remember.
It's the costume designer. That's
yes.
Anna B.
Okay, so that was okay. So yeah, I
and I'll
think
pull up.
that was great as well.
So these are her credits. You look at Spider-Man: Far From Home, Now You See Me 2, Fury, Maleficent, Captain America: The First Avenger. So she's in Inglourious Basterds. She's Fred Claus. She's definitely done a lot of superhero movies. Some really good ones too. I love the first Avenger. I think that's probably still one of the best MCU movies to date. And then Maleficent, of course, American Assassin, Overlord. Far From Home was like the first billion-dollar Spider-Man movie ever. So yeah, I mean she's got a good amount of high-profile pictures under her list. Even Schindler's List. Speaking of
Yeah.
lists, so yeah, I mean again, great veteran talent, and so I'm excited again that they've put together quite the crew here, which again goes to show you that they mean business with this movie. I mean,
Hmm.
they've got a budget of like 150 million or possibly more. That's just an estimated number, and that's like those are big boy numbers. Those are big girl numbers. Like you're making just another small spin-off. This is not a $40 million Clayface movie. This is a big time summer blockbuster. So I'm really glad that Supergirl is getting that kind of treatment. Now, one of the other things that it says here in this notebook that I put together, which is the filming date. So it starts filming on January 13th. That's literally like a few
Hmm.
days away. You can count them on one hand from when we were doing the show. And it looks like they're going to start filming, of course, in January. They're going to go until like around May, which makes sense, around 5 months' time. And it looks like they're going to be filming in London as well as, I believe, in the Nordics. I think I read Iceland somewhere. But we do have some news regarding that, coming from CBR, where they mentioned this, that they're going to start filming in January, and this is
Yep.
from like Production Bulletin, and we have heard of that before. And then of course I think I read this in another article from CBR where they talked a little bit more about it. With like they're gonna shoot for like 5 months, which is fair. And then London is a big part of it because they're the Batman at Leavesden Studios. They've shot a ton of stuff. Harry Potter. They've done a lot of that there, and now this will be the latest project to film in London, England for Warner Brothers and for DC Studios, which is going to have a big presence. They're expanding the Leavesden Studios and
Hmm.
adding more sound stages. And James Gunn said early on when that was happening, he was even part of the press release when they announced that expansion, that DC Studios will have a big presence there. So, and then James Gunn Superman, of course, did utilize the Nordic landscapes. They're shot in Svalbard, Norway. So I wouldn't be surprised that, whether it's Fortress of Solitude scenes or something else, that if it's part of the Supergirl storyline, that they go back to those same locations. What do you think about, again, just the length of time that they're filming for, the fact that they're starting so soon, and they'll have basically if they wrap filming in May, they have over a year for post production, similar to Superman. And then again, just the locations, between the studios in London and then the Nordics, whether it's Norway or Iceland or otherwise. To me, this follows a very similar track to Superman, which again tells me that they're treating this like a big movie. What do you think?
They're giving it the respect it deserves,
Yeah,
and I think that's pretty fucking awesome. I think
yeah,
that that's definitely Supergirl deserves it. The first movie was fucking terrible. The show was terrible. Her appearance in the Flash, she was good, but the movie was terrible. So it's good budget, it's good everything. So that's I feel like Supergirl deserves. The TV show was also not good. So like I think Supergirl deserves it. Again, I wish it was better source material, but I can't pickers can't be choosers. But I think Supergirl's a great character, especially the modern version of the character.
hmm
So I think that's pretty awesome. So like they're giving her the time of day, they're giving this production the time of day. It's not like, fucking whatever. Supergirl, she's not Superman. No, it's just like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Let's fucking go.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
yep.
of course. I think we'll be getting. I like
We
maybe
probably will.
something more traditional because I know that the boots picture, him putting on his boots for Superman, got a lot of flack. So now it's 5 days. Well, for people on the East Coast, it's 5 days. But yeah, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Very very exciting.
yep. And then Ron saying like they better treat all of their movies like big movies. I think so. I mean, these are event films. I know that Clayface has a smaller budget and all, but even then, I mean, the movie's gonna be treated like a big. It's still a DCU movie, and it's probably still gonna have connections to other characters that we're gonna see later on in the DCU or already have seen in the DCU at that point. So even if it's a smaller budget, I mean, even something like Clayface, I'm sure it's gonna get like the big studio treatment in terms of the marketing and everything. So with that said, of course, Supergirl, I'm glad that it's getting that treatment. And yes, as it says there, January 13, 2025, it's days away, uh, 5 days or less, depending on when you're watching this. Josh dropping in a little late. He's saying Hugo Strange, and then Ricardo. I think we already had that conversation. You might be watching a little bit behind, but and then Ricardo dropping in. Hello, Ricardo, in the chat. The Watcher saying you can make an event out of a horror film. Every Scream people make it one. Yeah, LOL. Yes, they do. They do. Ricardo also said earlier, around what box office numbers do you think Superman and Supergirl should reach for a decent start to this universe? The Watcher already answered saying Superman should make around 600 million and Supergirl around 500 million, Don. So the Watcher gave his opinion. What are your thoughts? And what do you think should be like, what's the ideal number, or like the maybe even a range where if James Gunn and Peter Safran have in mind, like, hey, if it makes this much money, we consider it a success, both for Superman and Supergirl?
I think, okay, so for both Superman and Supergirl,
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like Zaslav is probably expecting like 2 billion, but and then I feel like we're gonna get BVS again when it doesn't hit 2 billion. So, or it's like it's 800
I mean,
million,
but honestly, though, again, I don't care about David Zaslav. I mean, yes, David Zaslav obviously matters. I don't think David Zaslav in his right mind. No, but it's not realistic to consider any of these movies to make $1 billion. Let's be quite frank. The DCEU died a very sad death, and the Batman franchise, while it made over 700 million, it certainly wasn't $1 billion. So
okay,
if we're being realistic,
if I were to take a guess,
yeah,
I'm gonna take a guess because I know that people like James Gunn shut down the rumor that it was like, oh, it's $334 million or some ridiculous amount. So without marketing, because marketing is always tough because they never include marketing in the main budget that's like released everywhere. You got to like, it's tough to see. So
I mean, look, honestly, they're probably gonna spend like over 100 million marketing this movie, I'd imagine. If they're gonna treat it like a Superman. I was gonna
get to that. Shh. But I would just, in terms of, if we're okay, because we got to start off with the budget.
Yes.
The budget for Superman, it hasn't been revealed yet. So my guess, I would say it's probably 150 to 175 million dollars. I don't think it's if it was released tomorrow and they say 200, I'd believe it. But I'm gonna play. I think they're gonna kind of play it safe with this, not have it be like that huge amount. So
I mean, Man of Steel was over 200 million, but they offset it by like around 50 million in tax credits. So ultimately, like all in, Warner Brothers.
I'm not including like tax credits, rebates. I'm not including. I'm just saying like the thing that's released on Wikipedia and Box Office Mojo. I'm gonna say 150 to 175 million, maybe eking to like 190 million. Like I would say 150, 190 million. I don't think they're gonna go above 200 because they want to actually get their money back. Because
which for a VFX heavy movie, you need that.
And it's a VFX heavy movie. But on top of the fact, the marketing is Summer of Superman, even though it's coming out in the summer. I don't know how it's gonna be a summer of whatever, but precursor to Winter of Superman, really. But I think they're probably, as you said, they're probably going to spend about 110 million on marketing. So that would be, if we go to the higher end, that's going to be about $300 million. So they're going to need triple that. So that would probably be 900. I would say in order for Superman to be a success, it would need 850 to 900 million dollars. I think that's maybe on the lower end, I would say 700 to 750. On the higher end, 900 million, maybe even $1 billion. So that's what I'm thinking now. Supergirl, I think, I mean, look at the Batman. That was $770 million around there.
That's pretty much,
so that's a good, but the thing is, they're like, oh, that's good, right? They don't want that's good. They want like fucking $1 billion. But again, we're not going with that. We're just going off of what we think. So with Supergirl, I don't think they're gonna crack. I don't think they're gonna crack 100 million. I understand it's cosmic, but green screens are getting like, that's honestly cheaper than practical stuff nowadays.
I mean, especially with the volume, you can do it in camera now. It's even better than green screen.
Right. So I'm gonna say, again, Supergirl is not as much of a commodity as Superman is. So especially with pretty much every live action interpretation failing on the big screen. So they're probably not going to crack 100 million. I'm going to take a guess. 100 million marketing, 150 million, or not 150 million total, 50 million for marketing. I think they're going to market it, but not too much. So about half as much as what Superman is, like $150 million, I think, market budget plus marketing. With that, I think this needs to make maybe like 500 million to 600 million to be a success. So I would say, I'm gonna say 600 million to be a success, because I'm really like going for the higher number. So I'm gonna say 1.5 billion for these two movies at the very best, I think would be very successful in their eyes. But I could also see it being like 800 million between the two, also being as like 800 to 1.5 billion would be like the net success in regards to these two movies. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I think if we're, but 1.5 would be very good success. I think 850 would be a decent start, as you asked. So I'm gonna say 850. Again, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a Wall Street bro. I'm me.
Well, I think those are good numbers to work with. I think they would be really happy if that is indeed what they end up with. I pulled up the box office for Man of Steel because to kind of provide my opinion on the matter. You look at the budget for that movie was 225 million roughly. They did offset a bunch of it with tax credits. That's why we got to see 7-Eleven, IHOP, Sears, and all kinds of different product placement in that movie. And they paid quite a bit of money for that so that they can blow up the gas station, destroy the house of pancakes, and throw a bunch of like Kryptonians into Sears, but half of those brands don't even exist anymore. But anyway, you can easily offset your budget with a lot of that. I think Superman already did with like shooting in Cleveland and Cincinnati. They got a lot of tax credits from the state of Ohio. So with that in mind, I'm sure Supergirl is going to try to take advantage of some of that as well. But the reason I put Man of Steel on Box Office Mojo here is because when you look at the numbers, with around a 200, let's say, an odd $1 million budget, and they spent over 100 million in marketing, which means all in they were probably like 350 or so into like the amount of investment financially that Warner Brothers had in Man of Steel, and they made 670 million. Now, typically, for a movie to be profitable, the way things kind of work out, it's a rough number, but generally speaking, 60 to 70% of what you get from the box office is what goes to, well, usually it's on the higher end of that, like 70% of it, let's say 70-30, like 70% of that take from the box office is what goes to the studios. The rest of that 30% is what the theaters take, the distributors, or or rather, not the distributors, but like the exhibitors is the way to say it. AMC, Regal, Cinemark, all of those, whichever theater you go to. So keeping that in mind, 70% of 670, I'm gonna do some rough math here. That's probably like around 500 million or so. Or like somewhere around that. We could correct my math, and then when you subtract the 350 or so that they spent on marketing in the budget, Man of Steel made like over $100 million. Warner Brothers was happy with the financial performance of the movie. I mean, yes, they would have liked for it to have made more, but given it was the first Superman movie in a long time, it was a very different take on the character, and it was a reboot. And Superman wasn't always seen as the most bankable character anyway. Batman is more bankable, as we have talked about. I think they were happy with that. They were more concerned about the critical reception, and then with Batman v Superman, that really turned the tide. But of course, that's in the past. I just wanted to bring this up for reference, though, because now that we get back into this conversation with Supergirl, I think with Supergirl, they're gonna spend roughly 2 to 300 million. Let's say, like you said, on the higher end, let's go between marketing and the budget, all in. Let's say they spend 275 million. Right now, if they do that, I would imagine that if in order for them to make a profit on this movie, they would want Supergirl to pull in somewhere in the neighborhood of what Man of Steel did, roughly around 600 million. That would mean that it made a profit of around 50 to 100 million. that's plenty to work with, and especially I think they're gonna want to have the critics and the audience ratings for this, the reception to be positive. That will matter even more so. I think if this movie does kind of what the first Shazam movie did and makes like $300 to $400 million at the box office, it's barely going to eke out a profit, but if it is received well, that's going to matter more early on in the cinematic universe, because you get established and reestablish the goodwill with DC fans, because a lot of DC fans, and just the general movie going audience has been disenchanted with like the mess that the DCEU became by the especially towards the last few years of its existence. And there's been a lot of like, just in the eyes of the average movie going audience, just a lowering of expectations for DC, products and movies and TV shows. The Penguin is obviously doing a lot of work to fix that. The Batman is doing that. Joker Folio did not do that. But if the new DCU with Superman and Supergirl can do it, then it sets a really good platform for like a movie like Clayface, and then The Brave and the Bold, and even for the Batman 2 to kind of like take off and make $1 billion potentially. Even The Authority I think could make $1 billion. Superman, they're gonna spend like at least $300 million all in with the marketing and the budget of the movie. And with that said, that movie, I think, in order for it to be profitable, they're gonna want to have it make over $700 million, or certainly make at least what Man of Steel did. And if Man of Steel 10 years ago made $670 million, I think a lot of comparisons will be made that if Superman does not make as much as Man of Steel, I mean certainly the Snyder Bros will be out for blood, but so I do hope that it does. The Watcher saying, I really feel like Superman has a potential for $1 billion, and I think it depends on if they keep playing their cards right from here on, because obviously they've done a fantastic job of the marketing already with the trailer, with the teaser to the teaser trailer. James Gunn is making every little bit of information he puts out an event in and of itself, which is exactly what you want to do if you're trying to do a summer of Superman, make this a whole year of Superman. And I hope that they will apply the same kind of techniques to Supergirl as well. Another new name I see in the chat right now is Chuck Rod. Hello, Chuck. We don't usually see you in the chat much, but hello. You're saying it was a great move to have crypto on both Superman and Supergirl movies. Crypto alone will bring half the moviegoers to the theaters, and crypto plays a bigger role in Supergirl, I think. Well, it will depend on, again, how the timeline of all of this works out. Because James Gunn did say Supergirl wasn't originally going to be the second movie in the DCU. It just happened to be that script was ready first. So maybe it does include crypto like in the comic that it's adapting, or maybe it doesn't. But I mean, I would lean on, crypto being in there, because obviously it makes the movie much easier to market, as we already saw with the Superman trailer. A lot of people are just going to go see the movie simply because crypto's in Superman. So it would be just wonderful to continue to see that character evolve with Supergirl, because he's certainly a part of it. And like John said earlier, it would make sense story-wise, because that way it's like, oh, take crypto with you, he'll take good care of you, or you'll take good care of him, and you could kind of be there for each other going out in the cosmos. Nico saying, my theory for Supergirl is Lobo is going to be the guy in the end that helps Supergirl. Could be. That would be certainly a nice, stepping off point for Lobo to go off and have his own movie, which we will get into a little bit later this week, so definitely stay tuned for that. Then let's see. Ricardo saying Man of Steel did 670 with 225. Yes, and it was profitable. It made plenty of money. So I'm just saying Superman will be compared to Man of Steel's box office. That's just a fact of life. So certainly I think for Superman, it needs to make that much money for it, to be considered like, hey, look, comparatively speaking, a success. Even though it's not a fair statement to say, because Man of Steel came out at a very different time for comic book movies. It also came out, without having a whole DCEU behind it, and now the DC brand I don't think is in as good of a place as it was back then, even though it wasn't necessarily in the best of places, but it was coming off the Dark Knight trilogy. So like there was a lot of good, let's just say good cash built up for the DC brand, versus today is really a mixed bag. Then Ricardo also said that 800 million is good. For Superman, yes, 800 million is definitely good. I think anything over 600 million is fantastic. And then Enterprising saying Superman in my opinion,
I would say
just has to do
650
the
to
Batman's
700,
numbers.
but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, 670 is what Man of Steel did. Let that be the marker. That's the unofficial marker for success. But Enterprising was saying Superman, in my opinion, just has to do the Batman's numbers to be a decent success. 700 to 800 million is a realistic projection. 900 plus would be phenomenal. I can see a good Supergirl movie hitting 700 million. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that, and like John, you mentioned earlier, if they do get to like 8 to 900 for Superman, and let's say 700 for Supergirl, the first two movies in the DCU would have made almost $2 billion combined. That is about as good of a start as you can get off to. The first two movies in the DCEU, despite them not being the most well-received movies, between the almost 900 million that BVS made and the 670 that Man of Steel made, that was like a good 1.5 billion or so, you know. So I think again they're gonna make that comparison as well, even though BVS and Supergirl are, it's like apples and oranges. But like Enterprising said, if Superman reaches past 900 million, it will go down as the most financially successful Superman in history, which it will be.
Yeah, because you got inflation, you got more
Yeah.
marketing to deal with. You had like
Absolutely.
yeah.
There's more competition. It's a different time. I mean, you know, we still haven't quite 100% recovered from the pandemic, and then people's, you know, viewing habits have changed. There's more competition. You know, people might be, you know, trying to decide between hanging out at home and playing, you know, the next GTA versus going to see Superman in the movie theater. But then again, that's a whole different Pandora's box I don't want to get into. But there was a comment from blah 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 earlier saying, do you think we'll get Aquaman in the DCU? Not saying he'll get another film, but maybe he's introduced through someone like Aqualad and Teen Titans. I know the Watcher kind of responded by saying that there's no rush to get characters like the Flash and Aquaman into this new universe, which I agree with, because James Gunn has already said that they're taking a beat on development. That was his words on the Flash. And then there's really no mention of the Aquaman, and particularly with Jason Momoa playing Lobo, I think they're gonna want to leave Aquaman on the sidelines for a while longer, because you don't want to confuse the audiences who just saw Jason Momoa as Aquaman like literally like a year ago. So or less than a year ago. So like, you know, why immediately, you know, go back to that same world? Actually, it's been a year. It's been over a year, but it's still like, it still feels recent. So they're probably gonna want that to rest for a few years, and they've got a, you know, slate that's full. There's no need to fill a gap with Aquaman. You can explore so many other characters. But I think John, you and I are on the same page. I think combined 1.5 to 1.6 billion overall. Like when you look at it individually, Superman making somewhere between 6 to 700, or maybe over 700 would be the ideal number. For Supergirl, you'd want to do 600. I think the floor for them would be if Superman made 600 million and just crossed that threshold and that's it, they would be happy with that. They'd say, okay, we could do better, but that's good. And then for Supergirl, that would be like 500 million, I'd imagine, would be what we're looking at. And you know, that's plenty good. That's plenty good enough. That's over $1 billion for the first two movies. The first two MCU movies didn't do that. I mean, the first two DCEU movies did, because they were leading off with Superman, and then Superman and Batman, and also Wonder Woman. And it was at a time when superhero movies were so popular, they were just like, even a bad movie like, you know, the Suicide Squad, which I still have fun with. I can admit it was hacked to bits, but I still have fun with it. But nonetheless, you know, it did make like a good 700 million, even though it wasn't a very good movie, because it made all of that money in the first couple of weeks and went on to win an Oscar for best costume design.
Best makeup and hairstyling.
Best makeup and hairstyling, yes. But you just don't see that anymore. Superhero movies don't just make a shit ton of money by default. They have to be good. They have to be good. They have to be unique. They have to be different. That's what the Batman was. That's what the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was. Like, you know, movies that both did really, really well. I mean, Joker for All You Do was a terrible movie. It completely shit the bed. You know, even Venom 3, you know, was the lowest grossing of the franchise. And quite frankly, I think the first Venom movie out of all three of them was the best one, and it made the most money. It's no longer guaranteed that you can release a superhero movie and it's going to make 300, 400 million off the bat. You need to make a really good movie to get the audiences to come to the theaters to watch your particular film. So with that in mind, I mean, yes, I think at the end of the day, Supergirl, well, it's got a director, it's got a cast. The script is, you know, definitely was written a long time ago. Lobo even has his copy of the script, and so the main man is going to be in there. Millie Alcock has the potential to become, you know, the definitive iteration of Supergirl. And, you know, James Gunn has certainly set this project up for a lot of success. You know, blessed from the start. I'm looking forward to it, John. I know that you're looking forward to it. Any last thoughts on it before we wrap things up for Supergirl, or do you think we've kind of covered it all at this point?
I think we've kind of covered everything. We really got into it this time around, and yeah.
I mean, I wish Lenny was here. She's been wanting Supergirl stuff, and we just spent like an hour talking about Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ron saying hopefully we can get more Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Plastic Man. Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I think we will. James Gunn loves Plastic Man, so I imagine that we will get that. And then as far as the other characters with like Hawkgirl, I mean we are getting Hawkgirl and Superman. Hawkman, I think they're gonna want to hold off on for a little bit, maybe for a separate thing, maybe a TV series or something, because I still think Aldous Hodge should return in that role because he did such a good job with that in Black Adam. But you know what? Right now, it's all about Supergirl, and it starts filming Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow on January 13th of this year, 2025. So, with that in mind, we will, keep an eye on it for the behind-the-scenes photos, any kind of leaks, and certainly the suit reveal and all those questions. I'm sure will be answered soon. We'll be here with you to talk about them 5 days a week. Of course, I'm looking forward to it. It's like what we did with Superman last year. It was quite the summer. So hopefully we'll get a spring of Supergirl, if you will. And with that said, John, I think I think we're gonna wrap it up for the show here because that's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. That's everything we know about Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, the second film in the new DCU, following up Superman, which comes out this July, and then next June you get Supergirl. So with that in mind, thank you so much everybody for watching. It's been another nearly 2.5 hour show. We do appreciate if you hit the like button on your way out. If you haven't already, and what are you doing? Please do hit that like button. And as John just did, hit that subscribe button and tickle the notification bell, because we see that about half of you guys on the channel, I know the numbers, you're not subscribed, and I do not appreciate it. If you're checking us out 5 days a week, hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out.
Y'all are catching strays.
Look, man, I was looking into the statistics and I was not impressed. I'm like, come on, people, help us out. It really helps to get more people in the door, and then expand.
Don't be too much of a beggar, Dan. You're looking desperate.
Calm down, man. I'm like, look, everybody here, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, thanks for checking us out live. And if you're checking us out after we are live, then be sure to stick around because we will be here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. So we'll be back tomorrow with Liz and an episode of DCU Daily alongside the Also Curious show. So John and I will be here as well. Until then, go out there and watch something DC related. Come back and talk to us about it. We'll see you next time on another episode of DCU Daily.